All right. We are getting ready for week 46 of Why Do People Dance This Weird? Also known as What Did Prince Do This Week? And I'm very excited. I don't know about Michael Dean, but I'm excited because we got none other than C. Lee in the house with his Christopher Tracy ensemble.
There you go.
Easily. That's what I'm talking about.
Cities conflicts.
That's right.
So, what up, Chris?
Look here. I didn't get waylaid.
Butterscotch chocolate.
Yes.
No, officer, my brother. No. We definitely have different fathers.
Hilarious.
Oh my God.
Good morning, man.
Good morning, everybody.
The chat is popping.
The chat is already popping. Oh, yes. And StreamYard is still janky. So first in the chat before I started the stream was Nick Felden, followed by Anna B. So we want to say, make sure we give a shout out to Nick Felden. Then we got
this music is like extra greasy this morning. I just feel like I should have curls.
Yeah. That luster curve.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, huh?
Oh my God. That's right. I wanted, I got a lot of energy and I wanted something to get my energy up. We've been listening to this a lot, but it never gets old. Yep.
Girl.
All right. I'll try to calm down.
Sliding.
That's when you're in the club doing the Morris Day line. Either somebody put something in my drink, and you're fine, and I've seen in ages.
Oh, whoa! Can somebody get this creepy nigga away from me?
Oh my God.
Oh.
Okay, we gotta say our hellos. We're in the living room. We gotta invite everybody in. We got Christina from Minneapolis. We got Reggie B.
Reggie.
And we got Theo. Good morning. I love this. To be clear, we got Tanja all through the Saturday morning. We got Anna B, that was second in the chat. We got Audra and ATLian. We got KMS 1984 from the ATL. We got Man Ray 10. We got Andy Ward. We got Karan, who has been hanging out with me. We're going to talk all about Thursday very, very soon. We got Chad Martin from Minneapolis. We got Ronald Dagley Jr. We got Mooches26 from Philly, always repping Vanity. We got Jerry Girl Funk this morning.
That's right.
Feldis. We got Chris Bournet. That's my favorite part. So that's right. Looking forward to this weekly dose of sanity in this crazy world. This is how I'm keeping my sanity. Music, Prince. What's up, Ricky? We are going to talk about Omega Sci-Fi later on. The cues. So I hope you stay with us. Say it again?
That got something to do with that George Clinton release?
Yeah.
Something else?
Well, a George Clinton performance, yes.
Okay.
It's at NJ Pack on Thursday, where it was hopping. And that's the reason why I'm so excited. I'm still like living off the fumes of Thursday's funk. We're going to talk all about it. Dr. Claus 77. We also have Drea Dances. Yes, I can see the comments. Welcome, D.
Hey, Sister D, what's happening?
3 powerhouses beautifying my mind and life. Wow. Oh, I feel that. All right. And we also have our timekeeper, Yes, it's sizzling. We have JD Washington, and Christina knows what's going on. Too sexy. And then Theo says, our official age in the back, an underrated masterpiece. Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's see what Lee Christian. Don't calm down. Get on up.
What's up, brother Lee?
Now, why you gotta say get on up? Now I want to play some James Brown.
That's right.
Like
That's right.
You want to raise energy level up. Put on some James Brown.
Take the super heavy funk to the troops. That's what they need in Vietnam. They need some super heavy funk for the troops.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. We got to give a special thanks to Andre for coming on last week. What up, though? Representing Detroit.
Brother Andre, I don't know if you saw my email to you, brother, but I just emailed and told you thank you for last week. The three of y'all, man, y'all laid it down. Y'all put the jello on the peanut butter, and it was a great sandwich. That's all I got to say.
Thank you so much, C. Lee. And we got Purple Cat Confetti. It's happy to be here. I'm happy that you are here. We have Jesse. Yeah. Always love seeing Jesse. Jesse calms me down. So it's good to have you in the chat, giving me some calm, peaceful energy.
Okay.
And JD is from, like if you ever hang out with Jesse, Jesse is one of the most beautiful people on the planet. Really the best vibes ever, but very calming vibes. So I'm a little too excited. So Jesse always calms me down. All right. We got JD Washington from LA. We got Panic Survivor in the house. And we got El Michelle. And we got D68A. Thank you so much for your contributions. We got one of your concert footages in the accompanying playlist. We got El Debarra from Ireland. Always a pleasure to have you here. And I'm so grateful for our graphic that we use every week. So we're so excited to have you here. And I think we got, you want to see my shirt? Let me see what I can do. So I have this on for a reason. Everybody and their mama should know what this is all.
I thought that was Welcome Back Carter for a second.
So I was thinking White Shadow.
You guys. Oh my God.
My bad.
We know how old we are.
So do you guys know who this is?
Yes, that's 3 Stacks.
Okay. All right.
3 Stacks.
I was about to.
Because these people in the chat like, what's a White Shadow? And who is this Carter they're welcoming back? What is going on?
Oh my God. And we got to give a special shout out to Haley. It's so great having you here. I hope you're well. Thank you so much for being here. Yes. Good Lord. Now that's a blast from the past. Now, I remember White Shadow. I know White Shadow was a TV show, and I think it has something to do with sports.
It was a basketball show. It was a white guy who went to teach at an all-black school, and he was a former athlete. He was a former pro basketball player. It was borderline white savior. Yeah, it was borderline like white savior. But I will say that as borderline
remake
white,
that one.
There you go. As borderline white savior as it was, it really was a good show. So it was one of them.
Hilarious.
It was like kind of like Facts of Life. Like you kind of like, oh well, yeah. But I will say this, and I'll end on this. None of the black characters, they were all subjects, and none of them were objects. Okay. And they really did explore. Like they explored some things like teen pregnancy, whether or not black athletes should be dropping out of school, going straight to the pros. So it really had a lot of nice things about it. That's it. I said.
All right. JD is saying it wasn't borderline at all, but a great show nonetheless.
That show's wild if you think about it, but I used to watch it.
All right.
We used to watch that. Of course, we used to watch Dukes of Hazzard, so we didn't know no better.
Okay, so let me ask y'all a question. Let me ask y'all this. Let me ask both of y'all a question. Since Brother Dean brought up Dukes of Hazzard.
Before you ask the question, okay. El Michelle is saying y'all showing your age, just FYI.
Hey, look, I put some Bengay on for I got on the screen. I'm glad we ain't got smell-o-vision because I smells like Bengay.
Lord.
So,
oh my God.
Look here. I knew in real time, and so Prof Duff may have, because she's from Atlanta. Did y'all know when y'all were watching the Dukes of Hazzard what the Confederate flag was?
I was in
No
Alabama
idea.
at the time. So,
Okay.
I mean, I didn't know. I mean, to be honest, I thought it represented the South, which
Right.
it did. It
Yeah.
just didn't represent me, even though, speaking of Andre, like the Dungeon family tried to reclaim like the Confederate flag, which I appreciated them trying to reclaim it, just, you know, like, because I don't know, like the rebel flag and all of that. I always thought it just represented the South. As a little person, I didn't know what was going on.
I remember that movement. I'm gonna give a so some of y'all know the name. God, and his name just escaped me. What's the shoot? There's a guy who's known more for producing, and he produced a lot of Atlanta groups. He also produced the UGK. What's that dude? He's from Mississippi. He was
David
also in who?
David Banner?
David Banner. David Banner. So David Banner was part of that reclaiming the Confederate flag. Yeah. In fact, he had it, and like you, I was kind of like, yeah, stop doing that. Like that, stop. I got it because they was doing it as part of the N word, and so if we can reclaim the N word, you can reclaim the Confederate flag. But the problem with the Confederate flag is the Confederate flag never meant anything positive in its original inception. So when you're talking about claiming or reclaiming something, you're asking yourself, can a bad tree produce good fruit? But saying all that to say that in watching the Dukes of Hazzard as young as I was in real time, only because my father was so politically active, my father would literally walk into the room when me and my cousin was watching the show, and he would shake his head and go, and I went to jail for this shit. And he would walk out. Like he literally, because my father got arrested like 7 times in the movement. He would just go, I went to jail for this shit, and walk out the room. So there you go. That's
and had us singing just good old.
There you go.
Every minute. I had the record. That's
and all those years later, one of the Duke boys had some very disparaging things to say about Beyonce's country album.
Right. Well, I guess not surprised.
So full circle is full circle.
Going Luke Duke, baby. Wasn't a black dude on there? Was that Ross? What was the mechanic or something?
I'm trying to see if I remember.
You know, we should get back to Prince.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, but I do love, see, Lee, how you connected it to Beyonce, which is music. So there you go. All right. So
what did the Dukes have to do this week?
Yes. So we have a lot to talk about today. So we do need to get it back on Prince and Purple Rain, and the Purple Rain tour in particular. All right. So we haven't even done our housekeeping yet. So
one of them shows.
Yes. So what did Prince do this week? A very slow read of Duane Tudahl's Prince Studio Sessions book series through an interactive weekly online book club and Saturday salon, echoing the spirit of the Harlem Renaissance. I say all that to say, in case you guys don't know what a salon is, that means do your Googles on Harlem Renaissance Salon if you don't understand what that means. Every Saturday at noon. And we're going week to week, not date to date. You can follow the detailed schedule at this bit.ly link or QR code. You do not need the expanded edition, but this is what we be reading. That's right. The one with the blue type. That's what we're talking about. All right. Yeah. And look, we're getting so close to the end of the rainbow.
So close to the end.
Now I hear so glow since we've been talking about Jerry Curl.
I thought you was about to do Rainbow 69, Jerry Butler. I went running to the end of the rainbow. Looking forward to it. Okay, there you go.
All right. These will be archived on YouTube at Polished Solid as well as at MD. Please subscribe, like, and help spread the word, especially right now because Prince is working double time, overtime during the Purple Rain tour. And we just want to spread the love for Purple Rain, Prince, and his work ethic. That's the reason why we do this every week. And the hashtag is WDPDTW for why do people dance this weird, or why does Prince dance this wonderful? There we go. So if you want to join us like Andre did last week, we would love to have you on when you saw the tour. So we're going to be talking about Detroit this week, as well as Greensboro, North Carolina, and we will let you know what we'll be talking about next week on the next slide. And that is going to be Capital Center, Landover, Maryland, and Philly. So if you saw the Purple Rain tour in Maryland or Philly, we want to hear from you, and we would love to have you on next week. We already got one special guest that's coming on, and I'm so excited that they're going to join us. We have none other than our regular amazing listener, JD Washington, is going to join us. So I can't wait. Yeah. So if anybody else wants to join us next week or in the future, please do so. And again, just email us at WDPDTW. That's the reason why you need to know what the name of this is, so that you can email us, because this is the acronym for it. All right. So the estate of Prince Rogers Nelson is not affiliated, associated, or connected with the What Did Prince Do This Book Club series. This is an independent endeavor, and we listen to Too Sexy, which is the B-side of the Bella St. Mark from 1984, in case you didn't know. All right. So what did Prince do this week? 1984, week 46, episode 97, 3 more episodes until 100. So then, yes, D68, every date is a 40th anniversary. That's what's crazy about Prince and why it's so important to celebrate him. Thank you, Kim. We're at 1217. Yes. Join them. Don't be scared. That's right, Andre.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Be scared. If you come in here, we're gonna grill you. Yes.
Yes.
Cover your purple car.
Right. What did he record on January 224? Which mix was it? Who was the engineer?
Which horn player was taken off in the final mix?
Right. What track was the bass drum on? No.
Yeah. All right. So what happened this week? And that should be week 46, but I was doing so much stuff that I didn't do that. So I apologize for the error. 5 live shows. And this is what we're going to be talking about. So 2 more dates in Detroit. So that makes 7 total, 5 last week, 2 this week on Sunday and Monday. And then on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Prince and the Revolution is in Greensboro, North Carolina. And at the bottom, you can see the actual real calendar that they had on the tour, which is kind of exciting to me, at least. And you can see like when they traveled to Greensboro in the real calendar and all that. And in addition, there was some more stuff that was found online. You can even see the hotels they stayed at. So in Detroit, they were in the Western Renaissance Center. And then when they went to Greensboro, they went to the Sheraton. And then when they go to Virginia, they're going to be in the Holiday Inn downtown.
Give it up for the Sheraton and the Holiday Inn. Don't act like you didn't know they was popping back in the 70s and 80s. Don't act like you didn't ever steal no ashtray from the Sheraton and the Holiday Inn. You know, that's how you let folks know you was there. You took that ashtray from the Sheraton and the Holiday Inn, let somebody know you've been somewhere. That's it. That's all.
That is very real. I don't know if people know those things, but so thank you for sharing that with everyone, C. Lee. All right. Okay. We're going to get into it. So we ran out of time last week because we read so many and unfortunately, so many reviews. And unfortunately, we're going to read a lot of them this week as well. And we have to read this one from the LA Times because Robert Hilburn, if you know your music critics, was one of the creme de la creme of music critics. So here we go. The title is Prince Revs 'em Up in a Cold Motor City. And the byline for the photo says, "Hello, Detroit." Prince says, I have come to play with you. Tour is due in LA next spring. All right, here we go. I'm going to try to calm down. Let's see. Detroit. Prince's new tour, which opened here Sunday night, is guaranteed to dazzle anyone who was captivated by the pop star Purple Rain film. In some ways, however, the show may carry too much of a guarantee. Except for 4 tunes, mostly hits from the 1999 album, all the songs in the 100-minute show came from the movie. Everybody is like talking about playing all these songs from Purple Rain. This is pretty consistent with all the other reviews we read last week. While the show had virtually everyone in the 20,000 capacity Joe Louis Arena on their feet most of the time, the conservative approach sacrificed much of the challenge and provocation of Prince's earlier performances. As one of modern rock's most radical and valuable figures, he has the potential and the obligation to do more than the obvious. On another level, however, it's understandable if he wants to adopt a more celebrative tone. After all, this must be a euphoric time for the man who has struggled for years to impose his liberating vision on a suspicious and sometimes hostile pop world. While there has been much written about how this maverick was booed off the stage by white rock fans at a Rolling Stones concert just 4 years ago at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, it's easy to forget that a large segment of the Black audience also reacted nervously to Prince's X-rated lyrics and sexually outlaw persona. The triumph of his frequently brilliant merger of funk and rock 1999 and Purple Rain albums is that he has won over both camps. The audience here Sunday was almost equally divided racially, a rarity on the concert scene. It's a triumph that both Prince and his fans seemed eager to rejoice in. That's why this tour, which is expected to reach Los Angeles early next spring, stacks up as more than simply a series of concerts. It's also a series of coronations. Prince is finally an acknowledged member of rock royalty. How ironic that Prince started his new tour in what was one of the coldest spots in the country. The low over this rainy weekend here was 25 degrees. Even in the year in which you think the pop world had expended all its energy and affection on Michael Jackson and Bruce Springsteen, the Purple Rain movie has grossed $65 million, and the soundtrack album, the nation's largest seller for 3 months, has earned about $50 million more. Box office receipts for the tour are equally scorching. When tickets for 4 shows here sold out in just hours, 3 other concerts were added and they too sold out. Sales in other cities have been equally impressive. The music community here sensed it was taking part in something important. Disc jockeys took advantage of every raindrop Sunday to joke about the purple rain falling in the city, and hundreds of fans showed up at the show in purple attire. Judy Sanders, 18, of Ann Arbor, said fans here had been Prince fans long before Purple Rain. That's why she suggested Prince open the tour here, a way of saying thank you for the support. And sure enough, Prince, who rarely steps out of his theatrical persona to speak to the audience, paused in the middle of one number to express his appreciation. This is Prince. "I'm not much for words," he said softly, sitting at the piano, "but I just want you to know we appreciate the support and love you've given us. That's why we chose to have our first party here." Indeed, Prince, normally an aloof figure on stage, seemed unusually open and in good spirits throughout the concert, though he certainly hasn't forgotten how to tease his fans. And it goes on and on and on, because I had gone on to the next one, but I'm not going to read the entire thing. So I thought it was really wonderful. I really love this particular review, just because the reviews that we read last week were, for the most part, quite critical. And again, because Robert Hilburn is so revered, it was just really nice, I think, for him to give Prince a nod.
You know, not being familiar with the writer, but hearing or listening to you read an article like that in 2024, it just reminds me, God, I remember the era of magazines, like, and just reading these in-depth articles, and it just kind of, that, I don't know, for whatever reason, it just shocked me, like, God, we don't read shit like that anymore. You know, the way information is condensed to us, you don't get that very often. And I have to remember, like, God, even back then, when Prince was just at the height of, like, it was all clicking and he's just doing his art, it was interesting the amount of weight that he put on it, in terms of, he was speaking of, the sexual stuff, and then the sort of racial barrier breaking through and being rock royalty. It's just interesting that even at that point, at the height of Prince, that consideration is placed on him, which almost is like that would be something that you would think people would talk about today after he had already left, and you're sort of looking back at a legacy of work to say like, wow, this is the milestones. But in the middle of the milestones, they were even recognizing how important Prince was even back then. That's incredible.
Yeah, I agree. Panic Survivor put 3 very important comments. I want to try to go through each one of them quickly because I think they are important. The first one, which came at 11:21, that one. So the answer is yes to that one. I would also argue, and this is going to sound contradictory, that if you look at the conservative Reagan years, the counter to the conservative Reagan years is that we were only 20 years after the 60s. And so if you take the late 1950s, I would say that the apex of true Black civil rights pushback was from the late 1950s into the end of the 1990s. And if you look by the end of the 1990s, that's when Black sitcoms, Black dramas, Black movies became rarer than they were in the 1990s. So the point is, I agree with what you're saying in this point, but I would also argue that at the height of Reagan conservatism, I would argue that Black liberation struggle, Black unified liberation struggle was higher in the 80s and 90s than they are in 2024, just by looking at how fragmented Black votership is. I'm not getting into why Black votership is fragmented. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I'm just talking specifically about the Black liberation movement. And when you look at the Black liberation movement, that in the 80s and 90s, it was not unusual to see the NAACP working with the Nation of Islam, right? A few years later, you had the Million Man March. I doubt that you could have a Million Man March in 2024. So I think that both things would be true. I think I want to go to the second point that now, and I would say your next 2 points, I would say that, yes, Black audiences were really reactionary, particularly older Black audiences really reacted negatively to Prince's sexual persona. You have to understand that what made it such a fitting rivalry in people's minds, not our minds, but in people's minds, Prince was the antithesis of the Disney character that Michael Jackson represented, right? Everybody had grown up with little Mikey Jackson. Michael Jackson was America. He was Americana. He was the quote American dream, right? It is not a mistake that they name, right? What is the Jackson's television series show name? Jackson Family
American Dream, American Family Dream, or something.
American Family Dream, right? They were the whole Motown. Motown wanted to be the sound of young America, not the sound of Black America. Motown wanted to be the sound of, and so when you look at that moment when Prince is on stage with James Brown and Michael Jackson, that is clearly a Black audience that sees Prince as an outsider. That is clearly a Black audience that sees Prince as something different and also negative than what they had seen in the past. So Prince wasn't just feeling it; he was feeling racism from the white critics. He was feeling classism or a type of moral classism from a lot of older Black people. Now, I always come back to the quote that was either in Black Beat or Rock and Soul, where the Black writer writes, Purple Rain is just Prince's attempt to clean up his degenerate behavior. So, and you think about that quote, right? So Prince, and again, I've told the story about a Black woman in 1988 who actually laid hands and prayed over me because I told her I was a Prince fan. So yeah. While our younger self, we may have gotten it. But I remember ministers in the pulpit preaching against the degradation of Prince. So it wasn't just he was getting racism from the white critics, and he was getting that kind of moral thumbing of the nose, particularly from older Black people. And so again, but it goes back to your original point that is another reason why we celebrate Prince's ability to break through in way. Purple Rain was unheard of. Purple Rain was not supposed to happen. Let's be really clear about that. And the fact that Prince was able to make Purple Rain happen is not just a testament to his genius, but a testament to his willpower and his focus. I'll shut up.
And two, I was just gonna add, even the sexual stuff for Prince, you get to messing around with church and Jesus and all that. Yeah, black, nah, man.
Black people didn't play that.
Yeah. Like, what's he doing? Oh.
So there are a lot of wonderful quotes and comments in the chat, and it's hard to put them all up, but I particularly wanted to put this one up from D. I received some of that, like, when I'm properly saved, I'll be less interested in secular music, particularly Prince.
Properly saved.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So let's go on to the next article that was written by Nelson George. And for those of you who don't know who Nelson George is, Nelson George is a Black music critic. So we just heard from a white music critic. So now we're going to hear from Nelson George, who is also very revered in music criticism circles. So it's really important that we read Robert as well as Nelson. Before I read this, I think it's important that I just love this silly byline for this photo, which says tongue and groove. During opening night of the Purple Rain tour, Prince is up to his old licks before a sold out crowd at Detroit's Joe Louis Arena. That's my counter humor. It's silly, but I thought it was fun. Okay. Let me find my article. All right.
Right, Web Diva. Were they saved though? Was Nelson George, was he saved? I don't know if he was saved. I just forgot how that was such a thing back then. You ain't been saved yet, Michael?
Yes.
I was saved last year, Grandma.
I sat on the front pew, but Jesus didn't come back and get me, Grandma. That's all I said. I said where you told me to sit. Jesus didn't show up, so I don't know what to say.
You didn't get these kids saved now.
Okay.
He ain't around. Somebody might have to watch.
All right.
Let me stop.
Yes. Let's get into this Billboard review from Nelson George. Name of it is Too Much Rain, Clouds, Prince Show.
Here we go.
Okay. From the moment Prince and Revolution ripped into the opening chords of Let's Go Crazy, the first show of the much anticipated Purple Rain tour, November 4th at the Joe Louis Arena, was fascinating and often exciting, but filled with far too many moments of deja vu. The impulse is strong in the age of video for artists to repeat the imagery of a popular clip on stage, cementing the connection between the visual statement and the live performance. But Prince is basing the bulk of his concert tour on Purple Rain, the film, instead of using Purple Rain, the tour, as a platform to go beyond those symbols and gestures. From the black lace that covers his eyes in Darling Nikki to the water-spewing guitar of Baby I'm a Star, Prince is obedient to the images of Purple Rain. At the start of the anthemic title song, he started to play a brown guitar, then apparently realizing his mistake, switched to the white guitar utilized in the film. The solo that followed was better than the one he takes in the film, a soaring, biting, beautifully sustained bit of musicianship worthy of the AOR Hall of Fame. Yet it came at the end of the second encore and was one of the rare times he superseded the film version of a Purple Rain song. He did just as well, but differently during Baby I'm a Star, when the revolution fell into a JB's vamp and he displayed a James Brown-esque shimmy. Part of the show's Is It Live or Is It Memorex quality derived from the fact that drummer Bobby Z, who during the Dirty Mind and Controversy tours played Prince's licks with power and drive, has had his role curtailed by drum machines to the point that he barely plays all night other than to occasionally crash a cymbal or play along with the preset rhythms. More disappointing was the absence of so many standards from Prince's rich catalog. After opening with Crazy, he played Delirious, 1999, and Little Red Corvette. But that was the end of the non-Purple Rain hits. Erotic City was given to opener Sheila E., but sadly missing were Controversy, I Want to Be Your Lover, Uptown, Let's Pretend We're Married, and Prince's oft-covered pop rock standard, When You Were Mine. Instead, the 2-hour show's midsection consisted of Free, a deservedly obscure cut from 1999, the instrumental piano interlude Father's Song from the film soundtrack, and God, the B-side of the Purple Rain single. One of these introspective tunes would have been enough, but in light of what wasn't played, it was definitely too many. As a showman, Prince was in good, not top form. Wow. I got to reread that one more time.
I'm going to have a lot to say about this article when you finish, so go ahead.
As a showman, Prince was in good, not top form, dancing and singing well throughout. Once a rather dirty-minded kid, bare-chested and clad in G-strings, Prince isn't as sexually explicit in word or deed as he used to be. His erotic bed humping during International Lover on his last tour has been replaced by a decidedly casual entry into an elevated bathtub. The newly named Revolution was competent musically, but had none of the brash, unstage strut and swagger of Prince's band when Andre Simone played bass and Des Dickerson lead guitar. Overall, it was a quality arena rock show, but with one obvious room for improvement. The tour is already sold out until January, so Prince has no financial incentive to add older hits or rethink his staging. Still, he has led us expect him to reach for greatness, and this, for all his appeal, simply doesn't do it.
Man.
Okay.
Nelson went in.
Highlight Web Divas comment. Highlight Web Divas comment.
This one?
Yeah, there you go. I need that highlight. Thank you, Web Diva. That's why I loves you. Thank you. Now, yeah, I'm just going to look. Send your hate mail, your emails to C. Lee McInnes. Don't send them to Brother Dean and Prof. Duff for what I'm about to say.
Uh-oh.
Fuck Nelson George.
Damn.
Nelson George. Let me say this, and I say this with all of everything in my. I was raised on reading Nelson George. Nelson George was one of the black men that I grew up reading. Yet over the years, Nelson George has built a lot of his career on minimizing and demonizing his entire. If you look at the interviews he's put up about the outtakes from his funk documentary, part of what he tried to do in that funk documentary is make Prince not a funk artist. Nelson George has spent his entire career minimizing Prince's contribution to funk. Nelson George has spent his entire career, his entire part of covering Prince's career, minimizing, saying that Prince forsake blackness. This is just another one of the diatribes that Nelson George wrote because Prince would not allow him to fit into his limited, one-dimensional notion of what a black man should be. And it's a damn shame that an intellectual, well-respected black man like Nelson George has spent much of his career trying to limit and minimize another black man, which is why I say F. Nelson George. And that's why you got a song called Bob George. And we all know that you was the George and the Bob George, and you got exactly what you deserve. I'll shut up.
All right, Michael, do you want to counter?
Well, like you, I grew up reading, listening or whatever to Nelson's work, and I admire it. Like a lot of what I was trying to do was what I would watching brothers like him, you know. And I see the same sort of slant of the way he sort of presents his takes on Prince. And I understand that, but I also will say in some of it, I agree with it. A lot of it, I don't. But to me, he is a older generation cat to me. Like he was kind of the crew before me. And I could maybe see how he's comparing his heroes and things that was popping when he was younger and here comes Prince, like, oh, this is some sort of new take on it. And I can probably see where he might be. Somebody said the whole light skin thing. I can see how that might have been sort of a thing, like, oh, they're gonna get the light skinned brother and he's gonna get elevated from some of our veteran type groups. I think Rick James was kind of speaking a little bit on that. So I can kind of understand a little bit of why he says that. He reminds me of my older uncles, who they was into the funk and stuff, and they was kind of clowning a little bit, like questioning, was Prince like legitimate? But then they realized that he was, but there was a little pushback from some of them older cats like that. So to me, that's kind of what I hear in him. I also hate that Prince put so much weight on these guys reviews and stuff for him, because I wonder if these sort of things that he's saying put the spark in Prince's mind, like, oh, they don't think I'm black enough, or I gotta do, I'm like, dude, no, you're doing shit that none of us ain't never seen before. Like, they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But so that's sort of my take on it.
Highlight Brother Bernays' point. I agree with part of what you're saying, Brother Bernay. But myself, as a published journalist, as a published poet, as a published short story writer, the issue for me is not Nelson George being obligated to say something positive about a black figure. The issue is Nelson George has gone out of his way to misrepresent and misconstrue Prince's contribution to black music. Those are two different things. Who is Nelson George to say that Prince is sold out? Who is Nelson George to say that Prince is not black enough? Who is Nelson George? If you go look at the outtakes of Nelson George's funk documentary, D'Angelo had to get his ass straight. George Clinton had to get his ass straight. Bootsy Collins had to get his ass straight. And Sheila E. 4 people had to correct Nelson George in his own documentary that Prince is, and what's my man, Nile Rodgers. Nile Rodgers, and I'll give Nelson George credit for at least putting up the people who corrected his ass, but Nile Rodgers had to just stop the interview and say, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Prince is funky. Prince is the definition of funk. So it's not about me saying Nelson George should be capping for another black person. I'm saying that Nelson George has spent much of the last 30 years trying to minimize Prince's contribution to funk music specifically, and to music in general, specifically because Prince didn't wear the uniform of blackness that Nelson George. If Nelson George just made us, so I'll give you an example of where I may agree with Nelson George, and most of the people in this chat won't. I brought this up before. Nelson George actually once said, he says it in that ominous documentary. He says that the problem with Prince producing people is that when Prince produces you, you don't get produced, you get a Prince production. That Nelson George said that Prince failed in bringing out the good of what other people did, and often simply made people clones of himself. I don't know if I 100% agree with Nelson George, but I do say there's some credibility. So in that, I don't have a problem with Nelson George giving an aesthetic, right? He's given an aesthetic understanding of what he thinks Prince is doing musically. But underlining all of that has been Nelson George for the past 30 or 40 years attempting to minimize Prince simply because Prince wasn't his brand of blackness. And I call him on that every time. I'll shut up.
All right. So I actually have one more Nelson George article, but this is actually from 2024. So the one we read, and it's not the whole thing, it's just a little bit of it. So the one we just read was from 1984. And so Nelson George actually has a Substack newsletter called the Nelson George Mixtape. And I'm not going to read the first paragraph. I'm going to read the second paragraph. And it says, at the time, and we're talking about 1984, I never knew what, if any, reaction Prince had to my review. I do know that the Purple Rain show loosened up as the tour progressed and became more spontaneous. I attended a concert at the Capitol Center outside DC where the first 10 to 15 minutes of the show started with a funky jam played in total stage darkness. a bold move in a 20,000-seat arena and totally in keeping with the looser tenor of his earlier gigs. So, well, first of all, we might have some new listeners. So this slideshow is available on the book club's website, which is bookclub.polishsolid.com. And with the majority of the images, not all of them, you can often go to the source. You can read the entire article that this is coming from if you want. I think it's important to put it in context of Nelson George in 84 versus Nelson George in 2024. But the reason why I wanted to actually share this particular one is I actually agree with some of the points that he made in the 84 and the 2024 show. And the one thing that the two things that I agree with him about the Purple Rain tour, and I've said this countless times on different podcasts and all these kinds of things, is that I personally, I'm not a big fan of the Purple Rain tour. I never have been, just because, like, for me, the theatrical parts of it, like when he's, talking to God, it just slows the concert down for me. And I kind of want to go like skip, and I've always, and like, even like as a little girl, I was like, let me get to Irresistible B, and because
so no Yankee Doodle Dandy for you then. No Yankee Doodle Dandy.
No Yankee. Yeah, I don't want any of that. And then also for me, I totally can relate to Nelson George's comment about Bobby Z's, not his drumming per se, but just the drum sound, because I was so used to acoustic drums and the energy from acoustic drums and live shows. So to be honest, it hasn't been until recently when I went back and looked at previous tours of Bobby Z where he's actually playing acoustic drum. Like, he's actually a good drummer, but you wouldn't know it because in the Purple Rain tour, because of just the drum machine and just like.
You didn't like those AI drums, huh?
No, I never liked them. Just in terms of a live context, in the studio context, yeah. I mean, I thought they were really cool. But like for me, studio recordings and live recordings should be different in terms of the energy level. And I do think that certain instruments lend themselves to live versus recorded. That's one thing. Okay, so also we should know, and we're going to look at the set list, that at this point, Irresistible B and Possessed aren't even in the set list right now. So like for me, it was just like when I listened to some of these Purple Rain shows, if you listen to a lot of them back to back to back, there's not much of a differentiation that you would get in some of the other tours. Mm-hmm. So I kind of understand where he's coming from. Like maybe he could have chose different words, obviously, but that's just me. And Law, who's in the chat, agrees with me. Electronic drums got better as technology grew. So thank you for that, Law.
But I would also add, and I agree with you. I'll also add though, and this is I went back to Brown Mark's book for some things, and it still it could be much better. There's a whole nother discussion. But Brown Mark reminded us that Prince actually took a break during the 1999 tour, partly because the time was kicking that ass, and revamped the set list. So I don't think it's uncommon for touring acts to revamp a set list, right? And all of us who've done anything live, who've done anything, you've had to perform, and you performed over a period of time, right? Even as a poet, right? Going around doing a reading, there are some things that you like that just don't work, or there are some things that you like that you revamp how you present them. So I'm going to lean more toward live performance is an ongoing adjustment. Now, did some things get adjusted because there are certain tastes and there are certain things that are being expected? Sure. But I would lean to the fact that things got adjusted just because that's the nature of how live performance works, as opposed to Prince knuckling under Nelson George's notion of you got to be more traditional in how people need to see you. I just think that tours and things that's just the nature of how tours work. I'll shut up.
All right. So we're going to move on because, again, we got so much to cover. And I know the timekeeper is getting itchy. Like, we're just starting and it's already 12:50. Okay, I'm not reading this. The only thing I want to read from this, because I thought it was important to note, was, if nothing else, anytime someone sells 8 million albums and it's not Michael Jackson, it's worth celebrating. And this is coming from Bob Merlis, Warner Brothers Records publicist. So I just wanted to kind of like put this into context here. All right. Okay, I'm going to read this. And if I remember correctly, I think this is positive. I remember, I can't remember. I read so many reviews that they're like bleeding into one another, but there was one particularly positive review. This may or may not be it, but we'll see. Okay, this is Prince puts on startling show. This is the Windsor Star. And this is by a guy named John Laycock. And here we go. Except for skin color and record sales, Prince and Michael Jackson share so little that the inevitable comparison is insulting, precisely because it's so inevitable. Prince is not the kiddie's pal. He is not cute, wholesome, or cuddly. Instead of running around with movie stars old enough to be his parents, Prince makes his own movies. Instead of romance, Prince deals in eros, straight from the shoulder and straight from the groin. If he were the boy next door, you'd lock up your daughters and maybe sons, in parentheses. Yet, because his Purple Rain movie and album have been the hottest thing since the Jacksons tour careened through town, then because his 7 Detroit shows at the start of his own tour sold out so quickly, and because his videos followed Michael's only lily white TV, you'd think they were brothers under the skin. That is, unless you saw Prince on stage. After 90 minutes of his fierce show, other Blacks are far more likely to come to mind. Jimi Hendrix, Sly Stone, and especially James Brown. Hendrix had the slashing guitar and incendiary sexual promise, plus a fiery taste in stage aesthetics. Sylvester Stewart and the Family Stone rallied the psychedelic troops with hybrid music. James Brown turned his music into a tangible physical presence, sweating and hypnotic and so urgent that body and soul became one. Prince embodies all of them in his new show. Though Hendrix is gone and Sly is forgotten, including by himself apparently, in parentheses, and James Brown is still in good enough shape to match Prince on the splits. This is not the good article that I thought it was. So just the positive, meaning the positive article that I thought it was. It's another one. Probably such ancient history doesn't matter a bit to the packed house at Joe Louis, fully integrated about 60-40 white-black, so rare in Detroit, and totally exultant, starting with the very first chord of the very first song. Only 10 months ago in the same hall, Prince generated the sort of enthusiasm that fans give a favorite who they think only they are smart to appreciate. Now Prince's audience offers adulation, the complete and instant recognition owed to only a few genuine pop idols. They were ready and willing to let's go crazy as the first song invited. The rest kept up the pace. It's a more furious show than 10 months ago, except for a couple of awkward costume changes in parentheses. During that first song, canisters suspended from the rafters sprayed flowers over the audience. A bank of speakers slung near the rear roof aimed sound back at the stage for shuddering feedback on the guitar solos. Both ideas are novel, although The Who used all-around speakers in a different manner in their Quadrophenia tour a decade ago, and the rest of the show was a stunning technical spectacle, more ingenious than the Jacksons. Prince is crazy like a fox. Those contradictions are his essence. He puts on a startling show, fiercely intense, yet supremely concentrated and technically disciplined. He commands the stage with a feline slinkiness, yet has an alarming tendency to writhe sexually on the stage floor, once simulating intercourse with a stack of speakers. Yet he claims to speak of love as well as lust, even though his guitar becomes a phallic symbol as explicit as any of Mick Jagger's stunts. And his attitude towards women remains a tangle. Purple was what Purple Rain would turn anyone who worries about sexism towards women. And Prince used to have his backup singers, Vanity Six and Lingerie. They've been replaced by Sheila E., another protege with a hit he manufactured, The Glamorous Life. She strips to a studded bikini, not a wise prescription for her bronchitis condition. Morris Day and Time aren't on this tour either, and I miss their humor, in parentheses. Also replaced is last tour's brass bed. Now the stage elevator raises a bathtub with a neon shower for the shirtless star to submerge in a cloud of smoke. Yet two women are full-time in his band, strictly as musicians, and Prince is just as casual as black and white integration. Tolerance can lead in funny directions. I don't know what that means. None of this sounds sweet like Michael, but one comparison is important. They have staked out common audiences where color truly doesn't matter. That makes, I'm reading all the errors in the grammar here, that makes 1984 a significant year for pop music, but Prince's show can make it significant all by himself. And that's the end of that one.
Where you really see, I mean, he spent a lot of time talking about Prince and Michael Jackson, right? You can just really see the climate of what was going on at that time. It's almost, to me, listening to these reviews is almost not even about the Prince part. It's just about like, this was the mindset of the writer, of a person who was supposed to have the pulse on pop culture. This is how they saw Prince. They didn't really know what they were seeing. Some of them sort of, he can kind of see, I can hear him seeing through a little bit, like I see what Prince is doing. He's able to call some of those cultural references a little early there, but it's interesting to hear, like, he's observing Prince in the midst of it. Like, he doesn't have a comparison. He can only compare Prince to what he thinks Prince is trying to do. So it'd be just interesting to hear that's what they thought of Prince back then versus what I wonder what he would think another 10 years later, being like, wow, okay, now I can kind of get what Prince was doing. Purple Rain, we never seen no shit like that before. So it's just interesting in that context to me.
Yeah, and I think, and I forgot to say this last week, and it's really important for me to say this, and I need to continue to say this because we might have new people who watch. The only reason why I'm reading these articles is that so that you can get a context of what Prince was dealing with in 1984. It wasn't a flower bed of roses. Right. Like, Prince actually prevailed against a lot of knockback. I mean, like, accusations of Satanism, like all sorts of like crazy insanity. And so, I mean, a lot of, our viewers, wasn't experiencing this in real time. And I just wanted to give people a sense of, some of the rhetoric that was going on around Prince back then. So that's the reason why we're reading these.
Yeah, even I mean, you just think like he was already dealing with the is he straight or gay in a controversy, from coming out of Dirty Minds. He was already being accused of different things, and even when he becomes superstar, there's still like, oh, is he this? Is it that? Or it's interesting.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to break up the reading of the articles, but I'm going to get back to them with some tickets. So this is what the ticket looked like for the Sunday, November 11th Detroit show. And you can see Ticket World at the top again. This one was actually $12.50, so this must have been closer to the stage because the ones we looked at last week were like $7.50. And then this was, or fewer. And then this is from the November 12th show, and this is $17.50. So actually, maybe $12.50. Maybe I'm getting my prices wrong. But the previous ticket was $12.50, and this one is $17.50 the following day. And then we're going to read another review. Now, the reason why I want to read this one is that this is like a compilation of a lot of different, and actually a compilation of people that we've already read, so you can hear it in context of one another. And this was actually included in the Star Tribune, which is a Minneapolis paper. Okay, here we go. Prince's inaugural Purple Rain Tour concert in Detroit received less than glowing reviews. This isn't prime Prince, wrote Jim McFarland in the Detroit News. It seems he is overlooking a golden opportunity to showcase the breadth of his material by pandering to a majority of fans who may have only become aware of him since 1999. Opined Gary Graff, which we read a lot last week in the Detroit Free Press, Prince missed an opportunity to remind fans he was much more than a screen star. Graff added that he was disturbed by the lack of depth because no song predated 1982. And then you can also see that there's like a bit of an agenda already and like the quotes that this particular person has chosen to focus on. Stephen Ivory, a Black Beat magazine, they have Steve Ivory in here, but Stephen Ivory, a Black Beat magazine, said he felt Prince had gone Las Vegas and predicted that the critics would trash him on the rest of the tour, which thus far is booked through June 7th. Robert Hilburn of the Los Angeles Times, long a champion of Prince, noted that the conservative approach sacrificed much of the challenge and provocation of Prince's earlier performances. The danger of giving the audience, and that's actually the quote from Robert, but then whoever's writing this, and I can't remember if this is John Bream or not, the danger of giving the audience exactly what it wants, the critic pointed out, is that the audience may go away feeling that is all an artist has. Now, I'm going to continue to read, but what's interesting is if you remember, Robert Hilburn's review was it was actually pretty positive, but this, writer chose to select, the negative part of, or the critical part of Robert Hilburn's critique. So again, that lets you know, like, everything taken out of context can be wielded in different ways for whomever, is in charge of the narrative. All right. However, Steve Morse of the Boston Globe, for one, lavished praise on the music and movie star from Minneapolis. The new Prince aims not just to outrage, but to communicate, Morse wrote. It was gratifying to see the once sullen Prince expose more of himself than his physique. Then it says, critics who stayed for the second of 7 concerts by Prince and the Revolution also raved. The 50-minute encore showcase the Prince twin Sidians had seen this summer in his several cameo performances. For his elongated version of Baby I'm a Star, Prince brought out members of his royal court, including dancing valet Jerome Benton, promoter Billy Sparks, Apollonia 6, Sheila E. on timbales, and Susanna Melvoin, twin sister of Revolution guitarist, and a member of the family, the newest act in Prince's court. And let me get to the next part. And then it says, then Prince closed with an awesome version of Purple Rain, said Christopher Connolly of Rolling Stone. That was a Hall of Fame guitar solo if I ever heard one. That was from Christopher Connolly of Rolling Stone. By the by, other members of the family, including drummer Jelly Bean Johnson and singer Paul Pearson, were in Detroit observing their boss in action. Apollonia Cotero, who played the female lead in Purple Rain, created the biggest stir as purple-clad autograph and photo seekers surrounded her in the audience at intermission. Benton was a big hit with the fans, too. He said he signed about 60 autographs at intermission at the first concert. So that was posted in the Star Tribune.
It's funny seeing Chris Connolly as an older gentleman now.
Yes.
Whenever I see Chris Connolly on like established Good Morning America, and it's just, it reminds me of my wife and I have this running bit that we do when we see somebody from our childhood. We'll turn to each other and go, "You're old, silly," and I go, "You're old too, Claire," which is a Cosby Show line. But anyway, so just when I saw Chris Connolly, it's like, man, we're up there. And to Sister Brooks, Carol Brooks, it wasn't so much that they were projecting. I think it's at her 12 o'clock. It wasn't so much that they were projecting as much as they were misunderstanding, to connect some of the things. So there are 3 things you have to look at. As Brother Dean said, black folks just didn't, particularly Southern black folks, but most black people, even American black folks, they didn't take count if they thought you was playing with the Lord. And a lot of people saw Prince as playing with the Lord. Then when you take his song Anti-Christian, most people are too stupid to look at nuance in songs. So we are all heavy Prince fans. But the average person who either saw Anti-Christian on that album cover or have looked at it, they thought it was a song celebrating and worshiping the devil, right? So you have to understand that most people don't do nuance. And then thirdly, when you put the Lord's Prayer in the middle of a secular song, I mean, you're pretty much asking to be deemed as a devil worshiper. So it wasn't, I would say that it wasn't so much that people were projecting as it was this dude was just doing things, particularly as a black man, doing things with religion that just hadn't been done before, particularly by a black man. And when you add all of that up, that's where he got this kind of satanic worship in. And again, as late as 1987, when I went to go see Sign of the Times, which I saw 60 times in 30 days, when I went to see Sign of the Times, the black older man who was the manager of the theater was still trying to convince me in 1987 that Prince was a devil worshiper. So that's how long that thing lingered out there. I'll shut up.
I was just on, and the thing was, Prince was doing it on purpose. Like he
Right.
knew he was gonna get it was like he couldn't be like, oh, why are they responding like that? Like he knew exactly. Yeah, they're gonna be up in arms over this. I already know. Put that in there.
And I'm glad you said that because the question has always been at the end of the controversy tour, at the end of the show, every night, the controversy tour, you got the cross on stage, and the last thing he does at the end of singing Controversy is do this.
Right.
There's no way that he doesn't know that somebody's going to put crucifix or crucifixion. There's no way that he didn't know that people, that critics wasn't going to comment on that. So you are absolutely right. I'll shut up.
And just to add to this, it was funny. Are you anybody else seeing all of these little memes of Kirk Franklin currently when he's dancing and stuff on stage? I don't know if you the Lord ain't happy about everybody. I'm like, where were you at in the 80s?
Right.
We celebrated Prince and Prince was literally playing in your face. Kirk is just dancing. It's like, stop it. Like we've always had the mixture of this and the culture has always sort of had that response like, oh, you playing with
Yep.
This is a natural thing.
I'm glad you said that. I mean, it speaks to just how rigid the line is. I mean, when probably the most difficult thing, I would argue the most difficult thing is to be a gospel or Christian artist in the black community, because you have to toe the line, I think, stronger. So I'm glad you used that example of Kirk Franklin to show just how, and I don't want to use the word uptight because I don't want to feel like I'm minimizing other people's notions.
Sure, for sure.
But religion and the black community, I'll say this now, and it's because I don't want to get too far off. But I think to Brother Dean's point, in 2024, there are increasingly more black people who are now voting their religious sensibilities instead of voting their social political sensibilities. That is, there are increasingly more black people who are voting against legislation that would help them from a social political standpoint because they want to side with the people that they feel like are upholding their religious sensibilities. That's what the line is. That's what Kirk Franklin is fighting, and that's what Prince was fighting against. And I think, as what Brother Dean said, in a wonderful way of forcing us to have the conversation. I'll shut up.
All right, so we're going to move on to another ticket to break the ice a little bit. And this is from the November 14th show in Greensboro, North Carolina, for those of you who don't know. And this ticket was also $17.50. This is one of my favorite tickets because it's so 80s. Like, I love the Ticketron logo. Yeah. And also like how colorful it was. So, oh, wow. I have to put this on here. See, Dr. Claus says, I'll never forget listening to a podcast D'Angelo was on talking about controversy. I was driving one dark night in South Carolina towards I-26 during the anti-Christian part. I passed a neon light at church. there's always a lot of synchronicity with Prince and music, and it's just really interesting how Prince like pops up and things of that nature. Okay, so I had a couple articles. It's getting a little heated, so I'm gonna pass a couple. Give me 1 second. So, well, no, I can show this. I'll show this one. This is just an image from an article from Greensboro, and the reason why I wanted to highlight this one is for the byline. It says, Prince's musical message in Greensboro last night ranged from God to good times. So that sort of, goes with the conversation we're having. So let me go through. Okay. I didn't realize where we were. I thought we were somewhere else. Okay. So here are some photos from the Greensboro tour. I love these shots. I don't know who the photographer is. So if anybody knows who the photographer is, please let me know so I can give the credit on the slide, because these are some amazing shots. And I just love the look in Prince's eye on the left, and love seeing
young Prince, man.
Yeah. Something else. Oh, and also just, still got the shiny 1999.
Tough. They look tough. They're like superhero. Like, I love it.
Love this shot. Prince on top of the speaker stacks, and just again, I have a thing for hands for whatever reason, and the hands in the crowd. Really love the shot. I should have made it bigger, but I didn't. And this is another ticket for the next night, November 15th, very similar to the previous one. This is a shot from the 15th. Again, you can see more detail in the scarf. So I got the gold is popping. It's not just white. Beautiful silhouette with, like got the lace gloves on.
Man. I mean, just looking at him right there, like he's in another world. I mean, if you think about what he was, the last tour and the look and the clothing, this is like, you've never seen him wearing nothing like this. This is incredible, man. Like, it's just a whole other upgrade. He's like on some, he like a superstar. Like, he went from being, cult dude to like, wow, like eternal or some shit. This is interesting. And it's all by design. That's the fascinating part. Like, it's meticulously decided on to have those particular looks.
So Kim has pointed out that this is me. It took me all I had to get this slideshow together, and I made a big mistake. And I have Joe Louis Arena on all of these photos. So let me see if I can quickly get rid of them.
Oh, we gonna grill you?
Yeah.
And while you're doing that, to answer, I think Laura's question, I think most of this was Vaughn and Lewis, right? Most of this design is Vaughn and Lewis.
Yes.
So Laura, to your question, that's Vaughn and Lewis designing all that.
Lewis and Vaughn.
Lewis and Vaughn. I'm sorry. Lewis and Vaughn.
Yeah,
man.
Like Lisa and Wendy.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, I got a lot of photos. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, just the aesthetic of where Vaughn and them came from, the styling. Was that from them in Detroit?
Yep.
And how that bleeds into how he, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's from Minneapolis, but he's really repping another town that he's clicked into, mixed his style into that. That's where that person's really hitting in the culture, because he's, his influence is in other cities, and then he's able to take other city style and incorporate it into his, while still spreading out the influence around the country. So everybody want to dress like Prince, that Prince style. I mean, it don't matter what neighborhood you was from. You could be Dr. Dre and them, World Class Wrecking Crew, and Compton up, but we on that Prince. That was the culture, man.
And thanks, Web Diva, for also shouting out Earl Jones, because it's I did not know until last year that the three men responsible for Prince's look at the apex of his fame were three black men, Lewis and Vaughn and Earl Jones. I did, and so thank you again, Prof. Duff, because I did not know that. And for you to interview that interview just touched me in so many different ways. And I don't know, this is where I described it. It felt like me, Brother Dean, and Jason Orr were having a family reunion with our long lost uncle. And that's going to be like one of the favorite, because we was yes sir and amen. But I think it's important that you say that at the top of his height, that as Brother Dean is saying, that he's influencing fashion, he's influencing hair, he's influencing clothing, he's influencing everything that is at the cultural apex. It's 3 Black men helping him to drive that vision. I'll shut up.
Yeah. Just real quick to throw in, you brought up the 3 brothers. It's interesting the power of the 3 in Prince's sort of imagery.
Yeah.
There's those 3, Wally, Jerome, Brooks. Then they put Cat in. Then you had the Game Boys. The power of 3. You know what I'm saying? You always, even if it was the imagery of Prince, Andre, and Dez. Or Prince, Andre, and Brown Mark, but it was always the 3 that he surrounded.
Or Prince and the Twins.
And again.
Right.
Or Vanity 6, Apollonia 6. Yeah. All right. So actually, I want to thank you, Lee Christian, for letting Laura know that, so all of the symposia are on this YouTube channel if you're looking at me through Polysolid, because some of you are looking through Michael's channel. So my channel is at Polysolid, and let me see if I can find the banner. Can I find that really quickly? Can I not? Here we go. So that's my channel, and the conversation that we had with Mr. Von Terry there's no words for it. It was extremely special. But I particularly love, Michael, the footage that you shot, because I could really hear you guys in the footage. And like Celie said, it was like you guys are the deacons, and it was just like so amazing. It's such great energy for sure.
And the fact that he loved it, like it was like it wasn't like he walked. Look at when he walked out there spraying that cologne, I knew it was on. Like I knew my man walked out like this what we gonna be doing. I was like, oh yes indeed. What is the ribs and the potato salad? This is yes indeed.
Yeah, it was a moment, so much. And let me see. Oh, thank you so much, El Michelle. I need a little love after that big mistake, but let me tell you how the mistake happens. You duplicate a slide, and then you duplicate it and duplicate it and duplicate it. So if you don't get it right, it'll be wrong for all of them. And unfortunately, I have a lot. And I want to thank you, Kim, for pointing out the error, because you know me, I love when my errors are pointed out. I'm not scared. All right. So here we go. I think I removed all of the Joe Louis arenas. Thank you again, Kim. And this is another great shot. Love this shot.
And the shame of all of that, what you just said, is because there will be some fan who'll be in the chat. They don't know what they're talking about. That show was actually on.
Yes, I know. That's the reason why I had to go through and remove all of them. So because someone might be watching without the sound on or something like that.
His curl was on the left side on that show. Was it wrong?
I've been there. Oh my God. And I'm going to be there again, because it took me, I was almost still in my rollers and pajamas when it was like trying to put this slide deck together. So
it's like Moore's Day at the opening of Purple Rain. You was
on the computer
in one hand.
Yeah, give it up to D'Angelo, man. She put in a lot of work.
Thank you. Hours and hours and hours just for you. So please be gentle with the mistakes that I make.
Hey, Brother Dane, she had an Andre 3000 sweater. Yes. I'm going to kill him with this.
Not the welcome back, Carter. What website you order that from? Because is that official merch?
Oh no, this is the first official merch. This is when I saw him at BAM.
That design is 3 Stacks approved. Okay.
Yes, this is actually he drew it himself. So
okay.
This is his his stuff. Yeah.
It ain't as bad as the D Wade statue. That's all I'm gonna say.
Wow. That, you know what, I could
Okay.
I could see the estate coming out with some statue, and it'd be something like the D, and we all be like, "Ain't this about?" Oh, like, man, that would be the last straw. Nah, that's it. We done. You know,
Like, who is that?
there's a new statue at the estate outside, and he'd be like looking crazy.
Oh my
Like
God.
somebody totally different. Like, man,
Hey, is that Stoney Jackson?
Yeah, it's like y'all don't stop playing. Like, come on, man. We done roll with everything else, but if y'all don't stop playing.
Okay, timekeeper says we're at 120. Okay,
Right.
more photos from the Greensboro show. Obviously, we know what he's singing right now.
I don't know, but
Yes, you do.
it ain't obvious to me, but I hear you.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
It's
No.
Darling.
That's Darling
No.
Nikki. You know that's Darling Nikki.
Nah, I don't know nothing about that. Don't put that on me.
Oh my God.
Lisa, I ain't going to jail with none of y'all when the police show up.
Oh my God. Okay. I love this shot. It's very gestural. This is also another really great one. More in the red.
Man, Prince was in his bag on that. Like, I mean, I'm gonna do Darling Nikki. I mean, the fact that he was like, yo, we doing this live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the red lights, I mean, he really stepped up his game. Like, you know, he didn't do nothing like that before. That level on the stage. I mean, that's a whole set piece, man. And from the movie and just the way he did it, I salute.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think like some of the criticisms that we've been reading from the critics, I mean, Darling Nikki is still in the set, right? If he was truly cleaning up his act, I don't think Darling Nikki would have made the cut.
No, we would if he didn't, we were ready to riot. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we want to see the we need to see it pumping.
Love this shot, you know, at the piano, the smoke, the purple. Love this shot.
Yeah.
Great shot. And I think that, let's see, where's D68? D68A says that these photos could be Joseph Rodriguez. So I have to look and see if I can verify that or if somebody else could help me verify. Let's see what D is talking about. I feel like the folks who lobbied for parental warnings in response to Prince secretly most definitely had some of these sexy photos pasted up in their closets and above their beds.
Above their beds? Damn.
And I love this comment from Kim. I love this Baroque smoke. That's pretty cool. And let's see what we got next. Awesome shot. This is such a great shot with the purple metallic trench coat.
Yeah. I'm an iconic. Anytime Prince has a guitar in his hand, that's a photo for me.
Oh yeah. Yes. That's what I have in my purple room. All photos of Prince holding a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. Yeah, I have a Prince holding a guitar wall. And then love this shot. It's something about this one I loved. It's just seeing Wendy in the background. Also love. And everybody should know what this is from. Do you know where this is from? What song right now?
Computer Blue.
Computer Blue. That's right. We don't even need the music. We know what's going on.
I still need that interview where they interview Wendy on the first day she got the instructions of what they gonna do. I just need that interview. I need that interview. And I need it for artistic purposes, not just for the joke. But I really would like to know what was the conversation and how they were going to execute it. Because I think that speaks, those are the kind of things as far as like preparing a show and doing things that you know you're going to get a rise out of, but the artistic intent behind it, right? I would love somebody to interview Wendy and ask her about that.
Yeah. So D68, just like, yeah, I know that the photographers shoot for the publications, but at least for the Detroit shows, critics were flown in from all over the world. And I know that sometimes photographers would follow certain stars. So just because a photographer worked for a newspaper doesn't necessarily mean that, because I just want to give proper credit where proper credit is due, especially for this. It's a pretty amazing photography that we're looking at right now. And let's see. All right, we're not going to read that. We're not going to read this. One of the main reasons why I wanted to show this is just, the controversy is still very much omnipresent. So a poet, a dictator kind of thing. All right. So I do want to read this one because it's kind of fun to break up some of our serious talk for today. Okay. Prince drops in for Poodle by Tony Kiss. Prince, the rock singer and star of the film Purple Rain, made a brief, unannounced stop in Asheville, and that's Asheville, North Carolina, Wednesday morning. The singer walked into the Pet Love, LUV, pet store at Asheville Mall about 11:30 a.m., according to manager Kay Grant. This is Kay. I had a call about an hour earlier from an unidentified man who asked if I had any toy poodles. I told him I did, and he asked for directions to the store. Then about 11:30 a.m., a man walked in and asked if I had toy poodles, and I told him yes. And he went and came back a few minutes later with Prince, his lady friend, I love his lady friend, and another bodyguard. The singer never identified himself, Grant said, but it was obvious who he was. He was dressed in a long full-length fur coat, no shirt, white leather pants, and purple knee boots.
Damn, Prince wow. That's on some rock star shit. You said fur coat with no shirt. He was on some different time. Shit, did I?
So you're good. All right. And then he said he was in a hurry, that he had to play a concert tonight in Greensboro, and that he wanted me to speed things up as much as possible. The singer looked at some of the poodles on display in the store, but didn't like them. Grant said, so I showed him some poodles that I had in the back, and he liked a little black toy poodle. Prince, who was in a very good mood, and that's in quotes, purchased the animal and some other items, she said. When the singer walked into the store, Grant said, she was the only one there. At first, I thought, this can't be. This can't be happening in my life, she said. A few minutes after you left, a number of people came into the store looking for him. How would people know he was there? I told him their bus was still parked out in the parking lot. He stayed for about 45 minutes signing autographs. Prince paid for the poodle and other items with a MasterCard and signed the receipt as Prince Nelson, the singer's real name, in parentheses, Grant said. I'm going to frame that receipt and put it on the wall, Grant said. He's the first celebrity I've had in my shop.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty incredible.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right. Okay, another fun article, because I'm learning that I need to balance things out. So this is from News and Record from Greensboro, North Carolina. And the byline is Maurice Locklear's 18 and A&T student, HBCU student Sharon Holt, 20. Okay, fans don regal colors. Excited crowd attends concert given by Prince by Kelly Mitchell Clark. A sea of purple and black flooded the Greensboro Coliseum Wednesday night. For anyone attending the Prince concert, these colors were a must. It didn't matter if it was leather or lace, sequins or polyester, as long as the colors were right. Prince came through the door about a dozen times, or at least men who looked and dressed like him. And there were many young women dressed as Apollonia, the star's girlfriend in the movie Purple Rain. Maurice Locklear, 18, and his girlfriend Sharon Holt, 20, said they are big fans of Prince. It was obvious. A large lock of Locklear's hair hung over his forehead and nearly into one eye, imitating the singer. His eye makeup and face powder were immaculate. Sharon was wearing a black lace camisole, fishnet stockings, a purple garter, and black heels, all under a black cape. I've been a Prince fan since the beginning, ever since his first album, Holt proudly declared. My Easer Brunton, 13, and her mother, Jeanette, came all the way from Havelock, some 200 miles east of Greensboro. Maiser, whose eyes were wild with excitement, won a radio contest, and the prize was a limousine ride to the Prince concert. Her mother said she enjoys Prince's music too. And this is the mother. I have 2 daughters, and when you hear anything long enough, you begin to like it. Prince rocks in my house all the time, she said with a grin. Most of those going into the Coliseum were teenagers, but there were a smattering of older fans. Sharon Renaud of Chapel Hill said she started picking out her costume when she bought her concert ticket the first day they went on sale, wearing a black lace camisole, black leather mini skirt, fishnet stockings, a purple garter. The purple garters were popping, I guess. Heels and black lace gloves. Renaud said, I never dressed like this. But most of those attending the concert were orderly and no arrests were reported, said Greensboro police officers who were patrolling the crowd. 42 officers, including 6 plainclothesmen, were assigned to the show. 42 officers, including 6 plainclothesmen, were assigned to the show. The chilly night air and the anticipation of Prince caused a capacity crowd of about 15,000 to move onto the Coliseum as soon as it could. Few lingered outside. Officer J.M. Landers III, who has covered shows for 2.5 years, spent much of the night looking for concealed bottles of alcohol and drugs. This is Officer Landers. If we catch them with alcohol, most of the time we just ask them to leave. Drugs, however, mean an automatic arrest, he said. Surveying the crowd as it came through the doors, Landers said, I think it's going to be a good crowd. We shouldn't have too many problems. Officer Clifford Surratt agreed. This group here, they're just coming to rock and roll, jam, and party. Captain Robert Steele, event commander for Prince's performances Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, said, it has been an extremely easy crowd to work so far.
So I'm going to admit to my old man hypocrisy.
Okay.
I will admit. I'm admitting to the chat, to everyone, my old man hypocrisy on 2 accounts. I want you to put that picture back up. Put that picture back up.
I think I was gonna mention. I think I see where you're going with this.
So for homecoming this year, my beloved alma mater had Glorilla as the featured artist. And I was like, that's not an appropriate artist for a college campus. I don't want them half-naked girls twerking and working on my alumni college campus, because back in my day, we would not have done such a thing, and we wouldn't have been out here naked and half-dressed, twerking and clucking like that on a college campus. And here go damn D'Angelo putting up this thing, showing me what kind of hypocrite me and my generation was.
Yep.
Showing me how we was out there getting our sexy red on back in '84.
Original ratchets.
So I will admit, this picture in my face makes me have to admit to my old man hypocrisy. I said,
yeah,
look
man.
Look at all the people in the chat. Go, Glow. Stop putting that in the chat.
Yeah.
Stop putting that in the chat.
And you know, I'm glad you said that, because I was looking at it and listening to her talk about it. I can see how older people could have saw this Prince thing and been like, he luring our women, our young women to dress like this out in the public. I can see how that might have been scary to them. Like, because as I am an older now, I can imagine if there was something in the culture where my daughter wanted to go out in public like that, I would be like, wait, you know, whoa. But then I have to remember, shit, that's what Prince was, right? Like that was the spirit of that was very attractive, and let your guard that you would be comfortable to walk out the door like that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I could see how if you didn't know what really Prince was about and you just only heard the controversy stuff, you know, the thing that people said about him, yeah, I would probably be terrified if, the same reason my mom was like, no, you're not going to see Purple Rain without me. You must be crazy. I don't know what that little nigga
and
you know what I mean?
And I would say to Brother Burnett, you're right. That's my counter. My counter is that there's no balance, right? There's no non-sexually explicit artists. Like it's like everybody out here is completely sexually explicit, and there is no where is the other side. So that's the one part of the hill that I'm willing to stand on and down. But yeah, I I was, when I saw that picture, and I had to remember kind of what I saw going to concerts in that time. I was like, yeah, I was being a little hypocritical.
Like, yeah, we going to Erotic City, girl. We get okay.
I was up here writing emails to the administration about having Glorilla on the campus.
I wish somebody pulled your pictures.
Right, exactly.
Mr. Seeley, isn't this you?
So this comment from Carol, I think, is important to read. Mini skirts in the 60s and 70s were nearly naked, because my mom said they used to call them micro minis. And so there's always like fashion through the ages. It has their whatever. I'll go with the sexy, not ratchet.
I don't know. I'm looking at Sharon's pictures. I don't know. I'm Sharon's pictures.
Mom, it's sexy, not ratchet.
Yeah.
You can go run that game to them folks, but
hey.
Here, Vanessa to the rescue. Sharon probably got picked up from her house with jeans on, and Maurice had to put the cameras on during the car ride to the concert.
None of my ladies wear gloves.
Yeah, what's this? What's this on? Oh Lord.
All right, so
I don't think we could handle that today. That would be too much.
Yeah.
Oof, that's the way y'all. Anyway.
Okay, we're going to move forward. I'm not going to read this entire article, but this is from News and Record from Greensboro, North Carolina. Prince keeps crowd at fever pitch with royal performance by Susan Ladd. And I'm going to read a little bit from it, not all of it. So there's three things I want to read from this. One is the sound quality supplied by quadraphonic speakers. I didn't have an opportunity to look up quadraphonic speakers, so I'm hoping that the musicians in the chat will know what this is all about. Was above average, but suffered a bit on the rocking numbers from a heavy guitar mix that drowned out voices. This next paragraph, I just chuckled when I read this for the first time. Prince also rivaled Stevie Nicks for most costume changes during a single show. And each time he shed an item of clothing, the crowd went wild. He did not, however, strip down to his bikinis as he has in previous shows. I wasn't aware that Stevie Nicks did a lot of costume changes, but I wasn't aware of what Stevie Nicks shows were like in the 80s. And then the last thing I want to read from this is Prince may be just another name 2 years from today, but for now he is the undisputed king. So this person thought that Prince was maybe a flash in the pan. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I just thought this was a really cool photo to have in a newspaper. And it basically said the same as before. We're not going to read this because we don't have time, but I do want to read this one. Okay.
You know what's coming when you see the title.
Yes. All right. There is a reason why I can't remember there are actually a lot of reviews that I left out. Okay. Prince sexually obsessed dandy, darling of the critics, teeny bopper idol, and sewer mouth Don Juan came to Greensboro Coliseum last night and orchestrated a rock show that was extravagantly self-indulgent and ultimately boring as any I have heard.
Damn.
That's the first paragraph. 24-year-old man is, of course, the latest rage. Again, this critic also thinks that Prince is going to be a flash in the pan. His crowd of worshipers last night was young. Most were white, of high school age, and female. They spoiled the singer last night, screaming if Prince dropped a handkerchief or moved his hips. His display of libidinous histrionics was the show. The music, high energy funk / rock infused with locker room lyrics, was incidental.
Man, the hate level. This is higher tier. I'm here for it, but man, he's going in.
While Prince is clever and quite a showman, his musical message is profoundly ignorant. His preoccupations with carnality has apparently destroyed any musical eloquence in a man who has more than his share of technical talent. Now, I'm going to stop here. This paragraph is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to read this. Not the whole thing, but this paragraph in particular. I'm going to read it one more time.
He wants better for Prince, but I understand what you're
No,
saying.
but so while
I get what. Go ahead.
I want to reread it because I don't think he's the only person during 1984, and actually much of Prince's career that feels this way. This paragraph is actually emblematic of a lot of people.
I agree. Yeah, read that again.
I'm going to read it one more time. While Prince is clever and quite a showman, his musical message is profoundly ignorant. His preoccupations with carnality has apparently destroyed any musical eloquence in a man who has more than his share of technical talent. Now, the reason why I'm going to read the rest of it, but the reason why I want to pause here is that I personally think that to this day, sometimes Prince's talent and musicianship is overshadowed by a lot of other
100%. 100%. Yes, 100%.
Celia, you can say it more eloquently than me. So chime in.
No, I couldn't. I couldn't say it. You said it exactly right. In fact, I can tell you that at least 4 times in my book, I addressed that topic of critics who are unable to get beyond Prince's overt sexuality to see him as a lesser talent. That was the one. Who's the one rock guy? I can't forget the one rock guy, not a critic, but the rock guy who basically said, "I'm just gonna say I want to fuck you over a beat, and then I'm impersonating Prince." So
hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it was this rock guy. Like literally, he was like, "That's who Prince is," right?
Wow.
And so now, I want you to keep going because I think a lot of people. Black and I want to be clear that cuts across. That's both black and white critics. They're both black and white critics who often feel. And to Prince's credit, Prince said that he realized that for a lot of people, he was going to be the dude who had his ass out on MTV. Like he said that. Those are Prince's words, right? And so I think that, and to Brother J.D. Washington's question. I think yes. I think the answer is yes. I talk about Prince selling sexuality to a white audience and selling sexuality in a white audience to a way that was a little bit different than the way Little Richard was doing. Right? Little Richard was doing it in a way that it was threatening to a particular level, but Prince was doing it, and this is the Eddie Murphy. I want to use the Eddie Murphy quote, and I want to because I think what Brother Washington is saying. Eddie Murphy said that Michael Jackson took Brooke Shields to an award show and everybody thought it was cute and nobody had a problem with it. Eddie Murphy then said that no one would have thought that it was cute if I would have done it because everybody would have known Brooke was going to get fucked that night. And so for Prince, right, there is a bit of black masculinity in a way that he's flaunting it to a majority white audience in a way that was unnerving for a lot of people. But also the reverse was for black people, they thought Prince was simply playing up the stereotype of the overly sexualized black man. So you had the fear of the fear of the black mandingo of white people and the worry from white people, and then the worry from black people to see you just doing. In fact, the psychologist a PhD Harvard psychologist, black man. He was also one of the writers for The Cosby Show. And he wrote an entire article in Ebony about how Prince was taking black teens to their lowest level and sending black teens into depraved, I can't remember the other word. And I'm trying to remember the name of the Harvard black man psychiatrist PhD who, Alvin Poussaint. Thank you, Dr. Claude. So check out Alvin Poussaint, Ebony, an article around 85, 86. He essentially says that Prince is making black teens fulfill the over-sexualized stereotype that white people have us. I'll shut up.
Can I ask you this, based off of what you just said, and how, the writer sort of perceiving Prince and the sexual thing, and you brought up the masculinity and how that might have been a fear. How do you sort of think then, sort of what comes after Prince, where the black masculinity is the actual other side of that, and it seems to be embraced by that cult. They see the rapper and are mesmerized, particularly almost by the toughest of the rappers. Not just it's one thing to be the Rakim, but it's one other thing to Ice Cube or he's dangerous black guy. Does it shift where all of a sudden that critic they praise, or did they praise the hardcore masculinity where it seemed like they was rejecting it to Prince? Or
let me tell you what happened. What happened with the black middle class in hip hop? It was a really interesting, nuanced change. They initially rejected it. Mm-hmm. But what I found to be true was no black person ever wants to be called insufficiently black. So after initially rejecting it, you saw a lot of the black middle class embracing hip hop from a position of they didn't want to be seen as hating on black culture. Mm. So then you had a lot of black scholars who got on the hip hop train because they didn't want to be seen as I'm rejecting something. And so what happened, and I say unfortunately, but maybe not, that what happened is that hip hop became the projection of everything that was black. So even if you weren't from that particular culture, right? So even if you weren't from the streets, or even if you weren't from drug boy culture, or even if you weren't from strip club culture, you had a large mass of black people embracing it. And I would say that the reverse has happened now, that what you have in the community is so many, and Brother Bernay, what happened was Caesar Lawrence Tucker, and I can't remember the minister, they became villainized.
Calvin Butts.
Caesar Lawrence Tucker. And
they were right.
In fact, let me break it down to you this way. I was in a creative writing PhD program for 2 years at a PWI. One of the few times I was at a PWI. A white cat turned to me, a white dude in the class, because I was the only black person in the whole program. A white guy turned to me and asked me, how come Cedar Lawrence Tucker and Calvin Butts is hating on Snoop and them when she ain't holding up for the blackness? A white dude felt comfortable enough to ask me some bullshit like that. I'm sorry, Professor Duff. I looked at that dude. I was like, and the only thing I can say is that, dude, get in your lane and stop talking about things you don't understand. I'm not going to even have that conversation with you. But I think it's understood. In fact, for years, who is the guy, the radio guy? I think his name Ebro.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For years, I wanted to run up on Ebro for some foul stuff he said about Cedar Lawrence Tucker. Oh, because the things that he said, I get him wanting to support hip hop, but he said some things about Cedar Lawrence Tucker that made me think he didn't know many black men or wasn't around many black men that would let him say something that foul about a black woman. Mm-hmm. So it was really a division. Hip hop really created a division in the black community. And so now when I hear a lot of so-called black middle class and black scholars now want to talk about the Sexy Reds, now I want to talk about the Megan nostalgia, now I want to talk about this, I'm like, no, don't get off that train that you was driving just 15 years earlier, that now all the horses is out the barn and you got a problem with it. Thank you, Sister Kim. I'll shut up.
Salute, though. Salute. Oh, you're muted.
I do want to read. We're going to go over today. So if either of you need to leave, it's totally fine. But I just want to, I try to go to 2:30 and then we'll be done. So, okay, let me get finished with this article. All right. Okay, the Prince concert is an hour-and-a-half long sexual fantasy that brings the pathetic shallowness of pornography to the rock stage and has somehow fooled the critics into believing that Prince has something to say. I know, it's hard to read this without laughing sometimes. His show opened as a morality play with a platform bringing Prince up from a pit and placing him in front of the microphone. From there, theatrics flaunted a series of twisted religious allegories. Baptism and redemption are reduced to sex and narcissism. Unlike a morality play, Prince's theater offers no redeeming image of heaven. The audience is locked inside the static hell, in quotation marks, of a songwriter and stage icon whose final message is this: Prince is the Messiah. The quest for understanding is to be found in his bedroom. So obviously we know that this person doesn't know what Prince is singing about or what Prince is talking about. But anyway, we continue. The staging of the allegory, though not brilliant, is at least low drama. But Prince's lyrics do nothing to make the allegory meaningful. He simply struts, undulating his pelvis, feigning copulation on the stage, and asking his lover, in parentheses the audience, if she would like him to take his clothes off, if she would like to make love, if she would like to take a bath, etc., ad nauseum. And one scene, Prince rises to pseudo-intelligence and asks, what's the difference between life and death? God. Then in the same breath, he asks, do you want to take a bath? Leers seductively at the crowd, peels off his shirt, and climbs into a bathtub, in parentheses, a sexual baptism, and caresses himself. The act is without significance. Prince is not saying there is a connection between God and sex or between God and self. He is saying he doesn't know the difference between God and self or God and sex. Obviously, that's all wrong, but that's what he wrote. Or worse, he wants his young audience to believe there is no difference. Most of the material played at last night's show came from Prince's Purple Rain album, the soundtrack from his enormously popular and pittily vapid movie, same title.
Good Lord.
He played a few of his trustworthy party music hits from earlier albums. Delirious in 1999, songs from an earlier album were energetic in concert. Aside from that, the show was tedious. One 5-minute scene had Prince and his female rhythm guitarist watching television on stage. And then, and obviously we know that wasn't.
That was Brown Mark.
Yes, but we won't go there.
He clearly got the two black men confused. Let's move on.
Yes, and then
He wasn't feeling the Yankee Doodle section. Damn, you called that out.
And then falling into a passionate swoon on the floor. Until last night, the most sleep-inducing moment I have experienced at a rock concert was a wandering 15-minute guitar solo by Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. But Prince topped that experience when he sat down at an electric piano for 20 minutes in the middle of the show and doodled, I don't know how to pronounce that word, with fragments from some of his romantic ballads. The lace curtains blowing above his head were interesting, but I was still tempted to lie in the aisle and take a nap. Wait for it. This is the final sentence. The Prince Circus will play again tonight and tomorrow night to sell out crowds.
Wow, man. David Snyder.
I must admit, David Snyder sounds like me talking about today's music. I mean, I can't hate too much on David Snyder. Sounds like me talking about today's music.
All right, so on to the next article. Now, I'm not going to read this page, but I just thought it was great. This is from News and Observer in Raleigh, North Carolina, that they gave so much newspaper real estate to Prince, and there's a lot of photos. And again, these are newspapers. So I thought that was really great. But I am going to read from the second page of this article. Not only did Prince get like a full first page spread on page 1 of the leisure living section, but also almost a whole second, actually the whole page pretty much for the ad. Okay, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I think parts of this is interesting. Okay, this year Prince's tickets have been as hot as his shows. On the afternoon of Prince's opening concert in Greensboro, 21-year-old Mark Hewitt and 15-year-old Michelle Engel of Claremont sat in Hewitt's car at the Coliseum and watched the approach of sunset. Except for the show's technical crew, the two had been the first to arrive at noon Wednesday, a full 8 hours before the show started. They stayed in the parking lot until showtime was near. A few parking spaces away, 33-year-old Bonnie Rose of Mount Airy buried her nose in People magazine. Guess who was on the cover, in parentheses, while co-worker and buddy Glenna Puckett, 22, fidgeted with excitement. Miss Rose said, giggling, "We like him so much. We've seen his movie 6 times. I guess you couldn't say he's John Denver or anything. John Denver is my absolute favorite, but I love to watch Prince dance." Tickets for the Prince show went for $13.50 to $17.50, and Miss Rose and Miss Puckett both had the top price seats. I would have gone up to $50, even $100, really, because after seeing that movie so many times, you just have to see him, Miss Rose said. The Oak Ridge boys do the same thing for me. Inside the Coliseum, arriving fans were handing over more dollars for Prince shirts, $13 to $25, programs, $10, posters, $7, and other souvenirs. I remember when posters were $7. I think it's worth it, said 17-year-old Lynn Smith of Charlotte, clutching $23 worth of shirt and program. Considering Michael Jackson was charging so much, $30 for concert seats, I think Prince is much better. Michael Jackson is for little kids, and I think Prince is cool. Better yet, said 23-year-old Lori Reckler and 20-year-old Rebecca Hall of Fayetteville, Prince is hot, and that's in all caps. Sexy, the two said in unison. The way he moves, the way he dances, the way he presents himself is so sexual, Miss Reckler said with a mischievous grin. Like his counterpart in flair and main competitor for fans, Michael Jackson, Prince has shunned interviews lately. The Minneapolis star has a history of reticence, probably a manager's idea to build mystique, when young Prince Rogers Nelson, named for his father's jazz combo, was trying to make his musical career profitable. Prince did his last formal interview in 1982, leaving the world to study his music and his performances for any clues about the man behind them. A few writers have offered their ideas in quick production Prince books. And I'm going to skip a couple. Let's see. I think that's all I want to read from this one. I just really wanted to read sort of like the, just hearing from concert goers, from 1984, in Greensboro. So I thought that was interesting. And let me see what we got next. Okay, I'm going to read this.
Before you go on, I want to add, just as a slight, John Denver actually was caught up in the whole backward masking scandal.
Was he? I didn't know.
Yeah, I was trying to Google it right quick, but there were like a lot of like hardline Christians. His albums were some of the ones they were burning in the 80s because he was seen as kind of either back. I know he was kind of in the backward masking. And so he was seen as someone who was part of the pop culture devil worship. And I remember when he died in a plane, I think he died in a plane crash. There was some people, whole God retribution thing. So yeah, so and I think a lot of it had to do with John Denver's somewhat liberal views, and so he had more liberal views than you think that someone who sang songs that he did. That's it. I'll shut up.
I had no idea about any of that. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't either. I mean, I remember when like it was a plane, or I guess it was a plane that crashed, but I didn't know about the backward
I
mask.
vaguely remember that. Wow.
Yeah. All right, here we go. So this actually, in my opinion, is one of the better reviews. So here we go. Prince bathed, baths. I don't know. I guess it's baths and raw sex in Greensboro by Eddie Huffman.
Wow. Raw sex. They going raw?
Okay, here we go. I got to make this big because the print on this is bad. All right. America keeps getting more conservative. As fundamentalist values come back, popular music grows tamer. Light pop music has replaced hard rock on the radio, and rock and rollers, traditionally an immoral lot, have begun to promote GASP, in parentheses, family values, and UGG, in parentheses, clean living. Any fears of America heading down the road to conservative oblivion, however, were shattered Friday night by Prince's gloriously decadent show at the Greensboro Coliseum. Friday's show was the last of a 3-night stand in Greensboro for Prince and the Revolution. The show had everything: overt sexuality, an amazing stage setup, and 2 hours of transcendent rock and roll. 3 years ago, Prince opened for the Rolling Stones and was booed off the stage several times by predominantly white audiences. Since then, he has become more popular than the Stones, and more importantly, he has gained acceptance from American whites without compromising his music. Prince has trashed the black/white barriers that have plagued the music industry for the past decade without ever compromising the integrity of his music. Prince's Greensboro show reinforces standing as America's premier rock and roller, black or white. He was dirty, provocative, compellingly dynamic, and visually exciting. He demonstrated the incredible diversity of his catalog of songs while relying almost exclusively on songs from 1999 and the Purple Rain soundtrack. And they mentioned the Quadraphonic speaker system again, so I don't know about that. I'm going to skip that whole paragraph. Despite the Revolution's good performance, Prince commanded the stage. His dancing, sometimes spontaneous, sometimes choreographed, was always exciting and punctuated the sexuality of his songs. He sang well, played some incredible guitar leads, and employed several campy stage effects to show off his sexuality. An onstage bath, a phallic guitar which sprayed the audience with some sort of liquid, and mock intercourse during Harlem Nicky.
We would riot today if a nigga did that.
As campy as some aspects of Prince's shows were, they were nevertheless effective. He created a truly compelling sexual aura, and the overwhelming array of special effects, lights, smoke, screens, curtains, a moving stage added to the effect. The only real problem with the performance was a lengthy monologue in the middle of the set, which killed the pace of the show. As you guys know, I agree. A crunching version of Computing Blue, however, which included Prince's bath, brought the show back to life. I also agree. The decadence Prince exhibited Friday night powered his performance. While the rock and roll lifestyle has killed some great people, it has also inspired some of the most powerful music. Elvis Presley, James Brown, the Stones, and the Sex Pistols have created incredibly powerful music out of a decadent background. Cleaner performances, and cleaner is in quotation marks, like Creedence Clearwater Revival and Bruce Springsteen, while great, have managed to capture the incredible bite of some of the best rock and roll. Prince has captured that bite. His Greensboro show was a combination of unrestrained sexuality and dynamic rock and roll. If he can keep his head in the midst of incredible popularity, his success will free him to create even greater music. He's made more than his share already. Now, I want to reread this and we'll start talking. If he can keep his head in the midst of incredible popularity, you can translate that to dollars, his success will free him to create even greater music. He's made more than his share already. Now, the reason why I think it's really important to point out those last two lines, and I've had conversations with a lot of people about this, Purple Rain was necessary for Prince to do a lot of stuff, meaning Under the Cherry Moon wouldn't be possible without Purple Rain. So obviously Purple Rain is so important. Paisley Park, the building, probably would not have been possible without Purple Rain. So Purple Rain, yes, Vanessa, we like Eddie Hoffman.
You were like, finally, you found something.
Yes.
Took so long to get here.
Can I ask something based off of?
Sure.
He said going back to the Rolling Stone thing. You know, thinking about that moment, and maybe we've talked about this before, but one question is, what would happen today? How do you think that would play today if an artist like that got booed? And yeah, I guess the racial component of what they mentioned, you know, where you're going to play for an audience of a different genre, you're a Black group, and you get booed. Like, I was curious, like, what would happen if that happened today? And then the other part, I was just wondering, what did people? I knew nothing about this at the time, but as a Prince fan who was around then, did you know that this happened back then? And what did you think? Like, were you like, well, why was he over there anyway? Or no, I'm just curious what you thought of.
So two things. Knowing it in real time, this is where we say pictures and video make a difference. So even knowing it in real time, because there were no pictures and videos regularly floating, it was as much urban legend and myth as it was. So for instance, the other part of the urban legend and myth was that Prince was stripping during the Rick James show, right? And I got to see him open for Rick James. He wasn't stripping because he came out there naked, so he didn't have to strip, right? So it was like, so that's the first thing. The sex, so people who knew, but it wasn't, you didn't see it. So because you didn't see it, it didn't have as great of effect. Secondly, the closest thing to which, because I was going to say one thing and then I thought about something else. We kind of saw this. And we saw it happen in this age when Beyonce is performing for the Country Music Awards and they had to turn the social media off because of all of the racist comments that were being, remember she performed with the Dixie Chicks, and the CMA Awards had to turn off the social media because because I was going to say that because of social media, you wouldn't be able to overcome it, or because of social media to fail like that. But we saw Beyonce essentially get rejected by the country music crowd. And now the difference is, here's what I would raise. When that happens to Beyonce, she's at a much different point in her career than Prince is at his career.
For sure.
So I would probably still stand by the fact that if it's a lesser known artist, someone who is getting his first taste of superstardom, I think that because of internet, they would be crushed in a way that a Beyonce who would do it. Okay, so Brother Dash is saying that a lot of fans didn't know about the booing until the 90s. So I'd say I guess I was in the minority of knowing that he got booed off stage by the Rolling Stones.
All right. So I have two more articles. One is super short and the other one is long. All right. So this is Rita Rouse, who's obviously, I guess, the fashion editor.
Okay, Rita. Miss Rouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't mad.
Yeah, and I love alliterative names because I have one. So Rita Rouse, gotta love it. Okay, here we go. A friend and I went to the Prince rock concert in Greensboro last weekend, expecting to see all kinds of outrageously dressed people. But aside from a couple of Prince lookalikes, the only interestingly clad fan who sat next to us was a young I can't talk now, was a young blonde woman and honest, in parentheses, nothing except a lacy lavender Merry Widow. I don't know about Merry Widow. I know about merry-go-round, but I don't know about Merry Widow undergarment. A purple garter. Maybe somebody in the chat knows about Merry Widow. Undergarment, a purple garter. The purple garters were all the rage. This is the third purple garter we read about. Lavender fishnet stockings, the first lavender fishnet stockings because the other ones were black, and purple pumps, and also the first purple pumps. The others were black. Her escort seemed to love it. He kept tugging at the end of her underwear, and no doubt she was trying to be another Apollonia.
Oh, Lord.
I'm too much of a lady to say what she really looked like. ... That's
Sexy Red.
Miss Rouse ain't playing. She said, but you ain't heard it from me.
Yes. And that was in the Charlotte Observer. Okay. And this is another ticket, but we're going to go, and this is the final article of the day. Okay. Stargard providing security for Prince concerts.
Damn, that's news.
Yes, it's pretty.
Wait, go back because Ms. Rita said everything but them little nasty heifers. I mean, the only thing was missing from her review was them little nasty heifers was sitting next to me. All right, let's move on.
Little fast tail.
There you go.
Girl.
Them Jezebels.
Oh my God. That reminds me of my grandmother would say bobtail. Okay. Okay, we had a previous review from Susan Ladd. So Susan Ladd is doing her coverage, which I appreciate because I like hearing what people had to say. Okay, here we go. A successful concert tour is usually measured in ticket revenues and sellout crowds, but that's not how Bill Snuffer designs a successful tour. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this thing correctly. When nobody gets hurt, he said, that's a successful tour. Snuffer, I love that though, owner of Greensboro's North Carolina Fire Dragon Karate School, is also the man behind Stargard, the karate trained security service.
This is top flight security right here. Karate.
Look, you can tell what movies me and Brother Dean watched in our childhood. Both of us immediately went to, hey, yeah.
I'm so glad. I'm not even looking at you guys because I have another article over top of the video because I can't see. So I would be I'm just cracking up from you guys laughing. So I can't imagine what I would be doing if I was looking at you. Okay. The karate trained security service is working Prince's Greensboro appearances, the last of which is tonight. For Snuffer, it started as a part-time security job at rock concerts and led to some of the biggest touring rock shows. Snuffer, 31, handles security at 2 shows on Michael Jackson's Victory Tour. Through next August, he's traveling with Prince. Snuffer signed with the Prince Tour in mid-October as assistant building supervisor. This would be a limousine tour, Snuffer said. So many times when you're touring with a group, your off days are really travel days, but this one is planned with several days between shows and multiple dates in almost every city. Snuffer has traveled with acts including Billy Joel and Van Halen and works almost every rock concert that comes to the Greensboro Coliseum. His small office is decorated with autographed pictures of Stevie Nicks, Bruce Springsteen, Louise Mandrell. Do we know who Louise Mandrell is?
Yes, one of the Mandrell sisters. Or is that their mama?
And the other
mama or one of the sisters.
Okay. The only other clues to Snuffer's success are the satellite dish and Porsche at his modest Greensboro home. It all started in the mid-70s with the Rolling Stones. Okay, we're going to go through that.
Pocket watching my man. He got the Porsche.
Oh, but by the way, for people who don't know, they were a country music act. The Mandrell Sisters was a country music act. They was on Hee Haw a lot and a lot of other things. So there you go.
Hee Haw.
Oh, I should know them. I watched Hee Haw because that's all we could get in Alabama.
Hee haw haw, hee haw haw, hee.
You know, Michael, so in Alabama, the TV would go off, at a certain time. Mm-hmm. And we only had like 3 channels. And my childhood was filled with Hee Haw and Lawrence Welk. That's what I grew up
on Sunday. That's right. Because Lawrence Welk came on after Hee Haw on Sunday. So you got hillbilly music at 5 or 6 o'clock, and then you got classical and really terrible jazz played by classical music. Like, now I shouldn't hate on the Lawrence Welk show that bad.
I love the Lawrence Welk show.
But you know my favorite Lawrence Welk joke is? This lets you know how square Lawrence Welk is. Lawrence Welk was so square that Johnny Carson used to make fun of how square Lawrence was, and a favorite Johnny Carson joke. So you know the song "Take the A Train."
Mm-hmm.
Well, Johnny Carson would imitate Lawrence Welk and show how square he was. That Lawrence Welk would introduce the song this way. And the next, the band will be playing "Take a Train." That Lawrence Welk didn't know that A Train was the name of the train.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God!
I will say, I can appreciate an era where a Lawrence Welk show was played at the end of the night. I can appreciate what the thought was behind doing that. You know, like, y'all need to go to sleep on this piece. And really, I wish we could have something like impossible to do that today, but that's such a different time, man.
Yes. All right. Let me see. I'm going to skip some of this because it's just background on him. So Stargard is also known as...
And Panic Survivor, that would be the illest if Prince had walked out one night on the Lawrence Welk and did a whole thing. That would have been crazy, like parade era or something.
But I will say, to put in contrast, right? Little Richard made a note that before his record, the #1 record in America was "How Much Is That Dog in the Window?"
Mm.
So we have to say that every generation is pushing that boundary. You know, I tell people, I know this is going to be a really crazy analogy. I know it's going to be a really crazy analogy. But I was explaining to my college students, they were asking, well, Mr. McInnes, what was the thing about Elvis? Why was Elvis so shocking? I said, you have to understand. Mm-hmm. What if you went to a private school and all you knew were a bunch of nerds pretending to be Tupac? And then all of a sudden, Tupac showed up at your damn school. White America had never seen anybody move like Elvis Presley because Elvis Presley spent his time on Beale Street with black people. And so every time the new black thing comes, it is revealing to the most of white people what they've never seen, and they feel like they've been depraved from whatever this thing is. I'll shut up.
Man, I'm still trying to do the math on the Tupac impersonator and the real Tupac. I'm still trying to catch the science on that one, but I know it's there.
Oh my God. Okay. So I'm going to skip through a lot. And the thing I want to point out, which I think is really interesting, if I can find it, he says, Bill Snuffer, it was wild. I went from making $25 a day to $1,000 a day. And here I am, a little Greensboro boy. And that is back in 1984.
Yeah, he was balling.
Pretty impressive. So don't, be hating on Stargard.
Yeah, I mean, they did him a solid with this article. They make sure you put my portion there with the satellite. Tell him I have.
So, okay, I'm going to read the Prince part and towards the end. Snuffer had decided not to go back on the road when he got a call from Prince's management. They made the deal to be assistant building manager, too sweet to resist. By tour's end, Snuffer estimates he'll make between $36,000 and $40,000. Snuffer will make sure everything in the concert halls conform to Prince's specifications. It should be quite a job. The Prince entourage includes 11 buses and 10 tractor-trailer trucks full of equipment. It's bigger than anything that's out. Mm. Now, in the company playlist, actually, my husband found a really amazing YouTube video of a roadie that was on the Purple Rain tour, and they go into a lot of detail. So I put that in the company playlist, and that's on the YouTube channel, which is at polysolid.com. All right, so we made it to our final How much time we got? So we're going to 2:30. Okay. So this is the difference between so PrinceVault.com doesn't have every single set list for every single Detroit show and all of the Greensboro shows. So these are the two set lists that Prince Vault has in terms of from the Detroit to the Greensboro, and you'll see that the middle is changing. So for the Detroit show, they got Father's Song. It was removed for the Greensboro show, at least this one. And also Do Me Baby was removed. And instead, Free, Take Me With You, How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore, Let's Pretend We're Married, and International Lover was put in. So, okay, 14 live shows so far in terms of not just a Purple Rain tour, but there were the 2 First Avenue appearances in June and August, the one at Bogart's, and then the 7th Street entry one. So, all right. Okay. About Thursday. This is really important. I forgot all about this. So
okay, but before you go on, can I ask you a question about the book?
Mm-hmm.
Am I reading correctly that Eric was added to the tour because Alan invited him to the show?
I think so. What page are you on?
That's on page. I got my marker. Hold on, sorry. 452. Because I thought Eric had been doing some recording with him.
Yeah.
But he talks about Alan inviting him to the show and Prince kind of throwing him into the fire.
Yes. So actually, let's take time to read this. And again, if Michael, if you have to leave, unfortunately, we're going to be going over. All right. So here we go. We're going to go to page 452. This is for Thursday, November 15th, 1984. Alan Leeds invited his brother Eric to attend the show and bring his horn. Prince let Eric one of his fur coats to wear on stage and invited him to play on Baby I'm a Star. Eric remembered. I asked him what key it was in, and it was a good thing I did because as many years as I've been playing clubs, this was one of the first experiences I ever had in that kind of situation, and just the immensity of the sound. It was just one big wash conglomerate, like the wall of sound, as they call it. This huge glob of sound that was coming out of the side fields, and I would not even have been able to determine what key it was in because it was just too much information to try to figure it out. So I knew we were in D, so he said, "You got it." I can imagine Prince saying, "You got it." And of course, he gave me my trial by fire because he completely cut the whole band off at one point and just left me hanging completely in front of 15,000 people, entirely a cappella, and I loved it. It was great. Now, thank you, C. Lee, because I did want to read that, and I had totally forgotten about it because I'm always trying to get to the end, and I think it's really important to point out. So the way that I take it is that, yes, Eric was invited on stage through Alan to Prince, and I've heard not just Eric, but Wynn and Lisa, a lot of them talk about just that wall of sound during the Purple Rain tour. And I can't imagine how loud that must have been.
So the other question is, was Eddie M already there?
I think he was.
Yeah, because it was in Sheila's band, and Sheila's was.
That's right. So then Eric got added after. Okay, that's interesting.
I think isn't in the Syracuse show. Both of them are up there.
Yeah, both of them. That's at the end of the show. Like that's at the end. I just didn't realize that Eric didn't begin the tour. That's my first time realizing that Eric didn't begin the tour.
Oh, no, Eric didn't begin the tour. No.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that.
You know, the obvious thing is it speaks such to the ability of Eric's musicianship, where he essentially is thrown in the deep end, you know, and he loved it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the level of you know, how good you need to be with Prince, and the fact that I think somebody said the courage that you'd be willing to be put on the spot in the most major way and kill it. Yeah, I can see why. Yeah, that's why Eric Leeds is there forever. Like,
yeah. All right. Okay. About Thursday. This is important. Well, first of all, before we go there, Andre performed at the Fox Theater, and everyone should go, well, why are we talking about Andre 3000? If you don't want to talk about Andre 3000, you should at least want to talk about the Fox Theater, because that's where Prince had his last performance, at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. So there you go. But I just wanted to show this photo
Ooh, yes.
of my favorite people on God's earth, Jason Orr, my dear friend, and Andre 3000, who I have a lot of love for musically.
Oh man, that ain't real. That's AI, man. Oh, Jason, stop perpetrating, Jason. I'm just hating. Salute, Jason.
Salute. They go back way back, because yes, because with Funk Jazz Cafe, Andre performed at Funk Jazz Cafe and Goody Mob and all those. So this is legit for sure. So I just love this photo, because those two amazing men represent so much for me. So it warmed my heart.
Salute.
All right. Now, what I really want to talk about is on Thursday night, I went to go see this tribute to funk that I had been talking to everybody about, but nobody believed me. It was going to be amazing, and it was amazing. And luckily, Mariah Lynn took all of these amazing photos. And if you don't know Mariah Lynn, she's a massive Prince fan, music lover on Facebook. She has like 70 photos from this concert. I only selected a few, but if you're on Facebook and you know Mariah, or you want to join like the New Jersey, New York Prince fans group, you can see a lot more amazing photos, because Mariah goes to more shows than I do. So that's saying a lot. So here we go. Bilal, who sung Kiss. I wasn't expecting it, as well as Eddie Kendricks, Girl, You Need to Change Your Mind. And you can see that on the Groovements YouTube channel, and it's also in the accompanying playlist. It was such an amazing performance for me, even though he did miss a little bit of he forgot some of the lyrics at one point, but I didn't hate him for that, because he made up for it when he said, "Think I Want to Dance." And I have never seen Bilal dance this way ever. It was the best. And Karan was there. Karan, who is in the chat, was there. So they know what was going on. It was such an amazing show. So that's just Bilal. Then Law was there. I didn't even know Law was going to be performing at this funk, this night of funk. And you can see Law here with the one and only Nona Hendrix of La Belle and Bluebell. And again, for those of you who go, why are we talking about this? Prince produced a song for Nona.
I sweat. Okay, that's it.
Yes. So there is a Prince. Yes, Kim, Bilal dancing. You have got to watch the video in the accompanying playlist, because it is hilarious. He was feeling the spirit that night for sure. It was very, very precious. This is what Nona had on. She looked incredible.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Incredible. Nona is like in her mid 70s, I think.
Wow.
Man.
That is.
Yeah, cool. and she goes all the way down to the floor. Like she did. I can't even do that in my 50s. So she was incredible.
That's what I'm talking about.
And then Savion Glover, like he was amazing, doing his like mad energy. It was something to behold.
How old is this cat, man? I always in my mind, I always think of him being as a little kid.
Right, still 14.
Like he's a grown ass man.
Right.
Yeah.
Bringing the noise, bringing the funk.
Yeah, man.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that. So Vanessa and Kim are saying that she's closer to 80.
Oh wow.
Ooh, that's all right. That's just beautiful, man. That's why keeping hope alive, man.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that gives me hope. And this is for you, Ricky, if you're still here. I hope that you're still here. And we actually have, when the cues came down the aisle on video, and they started dancing when George Clinton came out on stage and started performing Atomic Dog. Then the cues came out of the audience. It was incredible.
Oh, they were showing out.
Incredible. Yes. And then this is Uncle George with Law.
Look
Law,
at
it
Law.
was almost Law's show. Law was like performing.
Look at Law up there with Clint. Come on, man.
Come on, salute, brother Law. Go ahead
man.
on.
Yeah.
Damn.
And I love this photo from Mariah.
OG. Yeah.
Love, love, love. These photos are amazing. So I want to thank Mariah for giving me permission to share them with you. But you can see a lot more on Facebook if you look up Mariah Lynn.
Man, George Clinton's still out there, man. Like,
yeah.
And for those of you in the chat who might not know, so Omega Psi Phi is a fraternity. It's a college fraternity. Started at Howard University, HBCU, and their adopted theme is Atomic Dog. And in fact, George Clinton was initiated as a member of Omega Psi Phi. So if you are ever at a Black college football game or anywhere around a whole lot of Black people and Atomic Dog is playing, you're going to see a lot of brothers in purple and gold doing what you see on that picture. That is, and in fact, they just released, because this is what I thought so about that. They just released, I think, a 40th anniversary video where George Clinton remixed Atomic Dog with the history of Omega Psi Phi. So there's a song that was there. So it came out. So you can go, if you Google Atomic Dog and Q Dogs or Atomic Dog and Omega Psi Phi, he gives you the history of, and that's only important because one of the founders of Omega Psi Phi is E.E. Just. And E.E. Just was an African-American scientist in the 1920s and 30s who helped to pioneer cell fertilization. So just a little tidbit of history that Omega Psi Phi was founded by a Black chemist, Black scientist. So what we know about cell fertilization comes from a guy, and you can read it in a book called Black Apollo Science. So if you pick up the book, because E.E. Just, as a Black scientist in the 1920s and 30s, was denied funding for his research by his white peers. And he still went on to become one of the founders of Black fertilization. So that connects to Atomic Dog and the Qs. I'll shut up.
So
love that history lesson.
Yes, thank you so much, Celie. I love that J.D. Washington's first time that they saw Prince for Dirty Mind, Nona Hendrix opened for him.
Wow.
That would have been an amazing show to witness.
Interesting.
Thank you for sharing that. And yes, Man Ray 10, Vernon Reid was in the band for George Clinton's set. I ran out of time. Like I told you I was in rollers and like pajamas. Like I wasn't able to get everything I wanted in the slideshow. But yes, Vernon Reid was there. But you can see him in the video footage that's in the accompanying playlist. All right.
Man, just to go back for a second. The Nona Hendrix opening for Prince. That's some wild stuff. You really think about that, like where Prince was positioned at that time, and we have somebody like that to open for him. To me, that whole period, and then the period of Prince and Roger and Zapp and all them, I wish we could see more of that, here, because that's an interesting way. He was right there with them contemporaries and some of the legends. He's already up there with them, considered a peer. That's just an interesting time to me, man.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right, let's see. Here we go. All right, so the reason why I'm wearing my shirt is because Andre 3000, I didn't know this last week, has been nominated for 3 Grammy Awards. 1 for the Album of the Year, which is a big deal, for New Blue Sun. Best Alternative Jazz Album for New Blue Sun. And Best Instrumental Composition, which is called I Swear I Really Wanted to Make a Rap Album, but this is literally The Way the Wind Blew Me this time.
Wow.
So, very proud of my AT Alien. And then also, I'm very proud of Corey Henry, who is also nominated for a Grammy for his album Church, and it's for Best Roots Gospel Album.
Man, you know what? They doing Andre 3000 the way I wish they treated Prince. They giving him, and he deserves it, but you can see the game is giving it, open door policy for that. They're embracing, he's stepping out of his genre, and they have embraced him. It don't even matter if the people's buying it. the game has embraced him, right? Like they put him on that level. Now Prince, what he'd have did like the Truth album or something, crickets. They should have. I wish they would have gave that Silent Side. They just gave him that look. That's what I would have. Yeah, they should have had Prince. Should have. I wish he'd have got that. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't matter if nobody bought it. They just recognized the artisticness of it.
I would say the only difference is at that time, independent releases were seen as a threat to where now independent releases are seen as a norm. They were still trying to punish Prince for being independent to where now 3 Stacks comes along, and because of the work of Prince and others, he can get that love because he's no longer a threat to the industry, if that makes sense.
Right. I feel you.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to say, and I'm glad that you said that, Michael, is that I personally I always wish that Prince was still with us, but I particularly wish he was still with us to see the success of Andre 3000 in this different musical lane, because as you know, Prince actually talked to Andre about like his performance. And I think it would have been interesting to see if Prince would have responded to New Blue Sun. You know how he is in terms of do that.
I already did the piano album. Oh, they want I didn't already did Madhouse. What?
we on flutes now? That's what you mean?
I know he'd have been ready. Oh, okay. I think I already got a whole solo album ready of just vocals. What are you talking?
So you gonna get a Grammy for that, but can you do Housequake?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
but I don't know. I personally think it would have been extraordinary to hear Prince's response to New Blue Sun. I think it would have been just like bananas. So
no, I'll say this, and I think I mentioned it in my book, but I'm not sure I did if I mentioned it somewhere else. I'm like 90% certain that Rock and Roll is Alive and It Lives in Minneapolis was a response to Lenny Kravitz's Rock and Roll is Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And so I think that you're right on point that for somebody that Prince would have respected, that would have been a musical response because that's what the artist would have done.
Yeah.
I think he would have been like, "Ain't this a bitch?"
I love this from Blade Brown. P to Andre, bring the flute to Studio B. Let's see something.
Let's see, that would have been.
Yeah.
You said you can play.
I'm glad you said that.
Give it up for Bud Light.
He'll have Andre. I'm sorry. He'll have Andre in there, and then here come Eric Leeds walk up in there. Oh, you got your flute? This nigga's playing. How you doing, man? Yeah, you can play, right?
Oh my God, that would have been so amazing. So, Ricky, I want you to watch the video of the George Clinton video that's in the company playlist, because you can see the cues coming down the aisle. It was so extraordinary. I always love seeing them come in on Atomic Dog, and it was like amazing.
So, Ricky, put in the chat. When you at the football game and you hear Atomic Dog, do you start stepping? We need to know. Put in the chat, brother.
You better be repping it.
When you hear Atomic Dog, do you start stepping at the football game? All right, that's it.
All right. And I love this comment from Vanessa. 3 Stacks. We cutting. That's right. We cutting. And Ricky is saying, oh, I didn't know that. Our Founders Day is tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
And Tanja's saying, I still need to find a recording of Prince playing Bombs Over Baghdad from the 1150 after show.
Oh, interesting. Ooh.
And for those of you who don't know, Bombs Over Baghdad is an Outkast song. And
okay, that's it.
That's the cut.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go. So, Corey Henry's nominated for his album Church, which I'm super excited about. I put my favorite song off of Church on the accompanying playlist. And we also, because someone's going to say, Duane's nominated. Yes, Duane's nominated. We talked about this last week. We didn't talk about everybody else last week. But just so you know, we love Duane, obviously. And we'll talk about it again, just so everybody understands. We love Duane and all the work that he put towards the Diamonds and Pearls Super Deluxe editions. So we hope that Prince wins for Best Historical Album for Diamonds and Pearls Super Deluxe edition. That would be amazing. All right. So Corey Henry is gigging tonight in London, and he'll be in Denmark tomorrow and then Sweden. But I did not realize that the London show is a candlelight session. I would love to see Corey Henry play piano in candlelight. That would be pretty awesome. In a church, St. Mary's Church in London. So that's going to be really cool. We don't have any London peeps in our What Did Prince Do This Week circle. It'd be really cool to hear it. But Corey is coming to New York at the Blue Note from December 3rd to 8th. He's doing 2 shows every night. And he's just doing the piano, which is different from when he performs with the Funk Apostles. And George Clinton got nominated for his for an Audible original called "And Your Will Follow" and he got nominated for Best Audiobook Narration and Storytelling Recording. And if you click on the image, it'll take you to the Audible, or you can do your Googles, as Michael Dean would say. And also, the reason why I'm talking about, well, first of all, I love this album, The Auditorium Volume 1 by Common and Pete Rock. But the reason why I love it is the song Dreamin', where Common raps about Prince and Sheila E. and Morris Day. I think it's brilliant. But then the song that I really adore is When the Sun Shines Again. It features Posthumous, but it also features Bilal. And they did like this amazing live performance on one of the Tonight shows. I can't remember which show it is. There's so many, but I included that in the company playlist, as well as Dreaming and the original When the Sun Shines Again. I forgot to show this last week. I saw this on Bilal's Instagram last week, and I just obviously I was like, yay, my 2 guys are together. So it was just so cool to see them in Philly. So I love this photo. I love how much fun they're having. And this is another, I just love seeing Andre with his socks playing whatever he's playing. All right. And remember that the Live at Glass House is going to be, the video is going to be on YouTube again for free on November 20th. So I'm really excited about that. And that is Bilal with Questlove, Common, Robert Glasper. Oh, speaking of Robert Glasper, and I forgot to say this, for the Best Alternative Jazz Album, is going to be stiff competition, because in that category, it's not only Andre 3000, but Michelle Ndegeocello, as well as Robert Glasper. So that's going to be, I'm going to wonder who's going to win that category, because there's a lot of that.
You know, I just a thought about, and I'm an Andre 3000 fan, long time fan. Man, I hope the success of this album and this project pushes him to do another project where he's actually giving us his instructions and thoughts, because I think it's obvious the game and the community, we love that brother. Mm-hmm. We long, the energy and the presence that he brings to the table, we miss it, and it's extraordinary. And I think that's the one thing, like when I think about Outkast, it was the message though that they was talking about was just as powerful, if not more powerful than the sounds of the music. It was what they stood for,
right?
And that's missing right now. And particularly what Andre 3000 began to stand for, what he does stand for, and just his visual presence and the spirit of what he's doing. But I think when he's ready to accept the responsibility of speaking it to and understand the influence that he'll have on us, we're ready for it. You know what I'm saying? I think just the way he's perceived right now, just from doing something that's so of left field, is love to that level. Well, we don't, it's like we're just gonna embrace it and then we'll figure it out later type of love. That's a rare love that an artist can get. So I can't wait I hope that he's able to stand up and be like, okay, now I'm ready to speak. Because I know he's always said, I don't have nothing to say. But brother, you do. Like I want him to get that confidence to understand, no, you do got a lot to say, particularly at the age that he is now, what he's experienced as a man and a father. It'd be powerful as hell, man. So salute to him. I'm just ready for him to stand up and take his rightful place that I think we've kind of been waiting on. I always say the same thing to D'Angelo too. Like if he was to come out and really was speaking, it'd be open. We'd open the door. We're waiting for him to do that. It's the same thing. The same love we gave to Lauren. We were waiting for him to come with a proper thing where they spoke a message to us. We're ready to embrace it. So I'm just saying that about Andre, man, because these special cats.
Yeah, he's definitely special. One of one for sure. All right, this won't be too long. I just want to remind everyone about this book by Govert de Rose. And it's all photos from November 4th. We went through the whole book last time. So if you missed the last session, you should go back and watch episode. And then there's going to be a Black Album party at Paisley Park. And obviously, Dr. Funkenberry Jeremiah still needs our support as he goes through his battle. And this is the accompanying playlist. And in addition to the November 11th Detroit show on D68A's channel, there is the next video is the roadie, memories and recollections, which is really awesome. I learned a lot. I actually really enjoyed it. He has also a lot of photos, touring with Prince, Purple Rain tour. And then there's a Wendy and Lisa interview from 1984. Oh, and there's this Prince spaghetti commercial.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that in real time with the hand with the lace hand and put on there. And the next day it was a cease and desist letter sent. So yeah, they was not playing.
Yeah, but then Prince did give him permission.
Yeah, he did.
Eventually, it's actually an interesting story about how that happened, but we don't have time for that. And then we got Corey Henry's Another Day. You can see this tribute to funk, which is Girl, You Need a Change of Mind, and Kiss from Bilal. And I need to add the George Clinton one. I forgot to do that. And then there's some others videos. And then also last time I added for the playlist from last week, I added the Electrifying Mojo interviews that we were talking about that Andre brought up, as well as a couple of videos about the scene that Andre also talked about. Mm-hmm. And then there was a Detroit Purple Rain tour report where, if you didn't watch that from last week, of some of the fans, in that 1984 at the concert being interviewed, is really special as well. So I just want to remind everyone about the accompanying playlist that you can find at the bottom of my YouTube channel, which is at Polished Solid. Next week, we are going to be reading pages 452 to 454. And we're finally at the end of our journey together. It's been such a blast today. Thank you for going over. And I hope that everyone has an amazing day. I feel like, Celia, you have something to say.
No, I was just enjoying everything.
All right. So, Michael Dean, take us on home.
Goodbye. Man, another great Saturday. Salute to everybody in the chat room.
Yes.
For contributing. Special salute and thank you to Celie, sir. Thank you again. Special applause for D'Angelo for all the hard work with putting everything together, running the show in real time. Amazing. So we cannot forget everything that you do. And hey, work it like a job. We'll see you next time. Peace.